10 minutes later, at the entrance to the Croft Dominion. The gate guard stared, numb, at Leo and his crew as they finished unloading their gear. Forget it, he thought. Let the world burn. I don't care anymore. He must have been cursed for 8 generations to have run into Leo Evans while on duty. Thank guys. Drive safe on the way back, Leo said with a massive, friendly grin, waving goodbye to the moving company crew. He then spun around and faced the guard. Well, what are you staring at? Give us a hand with this stuff. The guard's mouth twitched. Mr. Evans, he said cautiously, what exactly is going on here? Isn't it obvious? Leo gestured to the mountain of luggage beside him. We're moving in, of course. I know you're moving, you son of a bitch. But this is the Croft Dominion. Are you moving into our headquarters? Just as the guard was caught in an impossible situation, footsteps approached from behind. He turned to see Kalen Croft arriving with his son, Corbin. The guard let out a sigh of relief. Finally, any longer, and he would have had no idea how to handle this. Kalen walked up, his eyes landing on Leo's crew and the pile of bags. He frowned. Leo, what is all this? I already told your guy, Leo said, a hint of impatience in his voice. We're moving in. And why are you moving in here? Don't be dense. We're allies, aren't we? Our alliance agreement didn't say anything about you moving in. Kalen looked resistant. The last thing he wanted was these people living here. More specifically, he didn't want Leo living here. He was afraid the Croft compound would get blown up. Uncle Kalen, it's been a while. Ava stepped forward, offering a sweet, disarming smile. Why don't you let us in first? We can explain everything inside. Leo's eye twitched as he glanced at Ava. He distinctly remembered her saying she had no recollection of the old geezer when he'd mentioned Kalen before. Where did this, it's been a while, come from? Ava, you little minx, you've got 2 faces too. Kalen recognized Ava as Anthony Reed's daughter. The thought that Julia Reed was also currently in his house gave him a splitting headache. How had everyone on the planet ended up at his place in a single day? Was this a refugee camp? Fine, Chailan sighed deeply. He turned to Corbin. Get a few men and help them with their luggage. Thank you, Uncle Kalen, Ava said sweetly, looking for all the world like the adorable girl next door. Anyone who didn't know her history would have been completely fooled by the act. They, however, remembered that this was the Reed family's little devil. Hey, be careful when you're moving that, Leo called out. Some of those backpacks are full of hand grenades. Corbin, who had just been about to grab a bag, froze solid. His eyes twitched as he looked at Leo, his small eyes filled with a universe of confusion. You said they have what in them? Hand grenades. Don't worry, they're perfectly safe. We had in the back of the moving truck the whole way here, and nothing happened. You motherf. Does the moving company know you put hand grenades in their truck? Is that even considered luggage? Corbin's face contorted, a stream of curses dying on his lips. He couldn't afford to piss off Leo, so he just started moving the bags, his movements painstakingly careful, terrified that one wrong move would blow him to smithereens. The other Croft family members helping were just as petrified. This was, without a doubt, the most dangerous luggage they had ever handled. Once inside, Kalen had them settled into guest rooms before leading Leo to the meeting room. He was going to hear, once and for all, why Leo had suddenly decided to move in, and what exactly had happened out in the suburbs. Why am I coming with you? Ava asked, trailing behind Leo. You'll see, Leo said with a mysterious smile. Ava didn't know yet that the leader of the Umbra was her mother, Julia Reed. And while Julia had said she wasn't ready to see Ava, Leo didn't care about that. They were here just a few feet away. Why not see each other? Soon, the door to the meeting room opened. Ava followed Leo inside, and her eyes immediately fell on the figure sitting on the sofa. Ava froze, rubbing her eyes in disbelief. Mom, Ava, what are you doing here? They both said in unison. Julia was just as stunned to see Ava, but she recovered quickly, shooting a venomous glare at Leo. Mom, what's going on? Ava was completely bewildered. I only found out a little while ago myself, Leo explained with a grin. Turns out your auntie here is the leader of the Umbra. What? Leader of the Umbra? Ava's eyes widened. She turned to Julia, her voice tinged with anger. You told me you were traveling abroad. Well, my travels brought me to Viridian, didn't they? Julia said with an awkward laugh. It was your father's idea. He told me to keep it from you. She expertly passed the buck to Anthony Reed. And you, Ava whirled on Leo. You knew this whole time and didn't tell me. I want to tell you, Ava, really, Leo said with a grave expression. But your Uncle Anthony made me swear not to let you find out. My hands were tied. Sensing trouble, Leo also passed the buck to Anthony. Julia, quietly gave Leo a thumbs up. Worthy of being my son-in-law. He's already mastered the Reed family traditions. Reed family motto number 1. In a crisis, blame whoever isn't in the room. Kaylin Croft watched the scene unfold in silence, letting out a cold snort. The entire Reed family was rotten to the core. Every last one of them was a devious snake. Is that true? Ava asked, looking skeptical. Of course it's true. Would your aunt and I lie to you? Leo said earnestly. Exactly. Ava, you know what your father is like. That man loves keeping secret from you and your brother, Julia added quickly. The two of them were perfectly in sync, as if they'd rehearsed it. Seeing this, Ava just snorted and dropped the subject. All right, are you all done with your family reunion? Kaylin said, his face a thundercloud. If you're finished, can we get down to business? He was the only outsider in the room, and it was his own damn house. Kaylin's mind was a chaotic mess. How had his life come to this? Inside the Croft Dominion meeting room. And that's basically what happened, Leo said, spreading his hands as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. I had to move in with you to turn those guys from the NYC coalition. Besides, our old place isn't safe anymore. After thinking it over, I decided it was best to come here and face this life-or-death struggle with you all. Kaylin's mouth twitched. The kid made it sound so noble, talking about life-and-death struggles. He wasn't singing that tune this morning. Kaylin grunted. And you're sure those guys from the NYC coalition bought your story? He asked in a low voice. What if they saw through your act and decided to play along, setting a trap for us? Leo blinked, answering without a moment's thought. Then we all go down together? What else can I do? I'm not a god. Getting this far is the best I can manage. If your Croft Dominion was stronger, I would have already led you out to kick some ass. Speaking of which, have you guys even been trying to build up your family's power over the years? Even the Black Dragon crew, who just showed up, are catching up to you. Stop. That's enough. Kaylin held up a hand, cutting Leo off. Gritting his teeth, Kaylin felt a migraine coming on. How was it that every time this kid opened his mouth, it was like a machine gun that never ran out of ammo? And every word was a dagger, sharpened for maximum psychological damage. It wasn't that the Croft Dominion wasn't trying. It was that the other factions were grinding way too hard. Julia, sitting on the sofa, leaned over and whispered to Ava, "Is he always this talkative with you?" Ava blinked, glanced at Leo, and shook her head. Leo wouldn't dare talk to her like that. If Ava got annoyed, she'd just beat him up. Besides, with Ava, Leo was a man of action. If he couldn't use his hands, he'd use his mouth for other things. I just hope this doesn't turn into a disaster. Kaylin was still worried. If things went according to Leo's plan, the main battlefield tonight would be his own home. Just a couple days ago, he was laughing at how Leo had turned the main cartel's base into a war zone. Now, it seemed the Croft Dominion was fated to suffer the same. What goes around comes around. Karma's a bitch. Suddenly, a realization struck Kaylin. Leo had basically screwed over all 4 of Iridian's major public factions. The Black Dragon crew's headquarters was destroyed. The main cartel's base had been on fire for 2 days straight, and Jasper Kane couldn't even be bothered to rebuild it. Now, it was the Croft Dominion's turn. The only one to escape unscathed was the Umbra, partly because the Umbra had no fixed headquarters, constantly changing their base of operations, and partly because the leader of the Umbra was Leo's mother-in-law. Kaylin was certain that if not for those 2 reasons, Leo would have already blown them up at least once. The NYC coalition got blown up last night. This kid was a walking demolition crew. At that thought, Kaylin glared at Leo. After tonight, you're moving out immediately. Before Leo could answer, Ava's face fell, a giant question mark appearing over her head. Moving? Again? Was she some kind of wandering vagrant? Why was she moving every single day? Uncle Kaylin, are you kicking us out? Ava asked, her big, beautiful eyes fixed on him, her expression pitiful. Did we do something wrong? She was done with moving. Absolutely done. Kaylin felt his headache intensify. That's not what I meant, he explained hastily. I just want Leo to get the hell out. Now, Old Man Croft, isn't that a bit harsh? I'm still standing right here. Don't you have any consideration for my feelings? Kaylin Croft, you watch your mouth. Julia snapped, not holding back. Leo is my son-in-law. If you kick him out, you're kicking us out. Have you forgotten how our Anthony saved your ass on the Crucible? Did a dog eat your gratitude? Kaylin's face twisted as if he'd just swallowed something foul. If he'd known this day would come, he would have let Jasper Kane kill him back then rather than ask Anthony Reed for help. How many nursing homes did I have to blow up in a past life to deserve getting tangled up with this family? I'm sorry. Okay, I was wrong, Kaylin said, his voice filled with unshed tears as he raised his hands in surrender. You can stay as long as you want. Is that all right? Thank you, Uncle Kalen. Ava immediately replied with a sweet smile. I knew you were a good person. Kalen forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. A good person card? The Reed family didn't even treat him like a person. All right, now that that's settled, let's all get ready for battle. Leo stood up and clapped his hands. Let's aim to take out Leland Vance tonight, then get Sterling tomorrow. That way, we can get back to Ethelberg in time for the new year. Kalen just let out a dry laugh, treating Leo's words like a fart in the wind. He turned and left the meeting room to prepare his resources for the coming fight. Julia, meanwhile, pulled Ava aside to catch up on everything that had happened over the years. When women started talking, it took time. So, Leo decided to use the opportunity to take a nap and rest up. Strictly speaking, he wasn't tired. But he had nothing better to do, and a little extra sleep never hurt anyone, right? Evening. Darkness enveloped the sky, and an eerie silence fell over the Meng cartel's compound. Inside, Jasper Kane smiled faintly as he read a message on his phone. After a thorough sweep, we've got a rough location on Leo and the others. Leland Vance, who had been leaning back on the sofa, slowly opened his eyes. Is everything ready? We can move out at any time. Leland slowly stood up, took the phone from Jasper, and looked at the map coordinates. What about the NYC coalition? They've already entered Viridian and are lying in wait near the Croft Dominion. Leland nodded, then glanced at Jasper with a bit of hesitation. After a moment, he spoke. You're not going on this operation. Huh? Jasper was stunned. Why not? Leland just stared at him silently. Why? So you can get taken hostage by Leo again. You stay here and guard that thing, Leland said in a low tone. It's our last resort. There can be no mistakes, understand? Jasper frowned, silent for a long moment before nodding. Fine, I'll wait for your return. He paused, then added viciously. This time, you have to eliminate that bastard Leo Evans. His abdomen still ached. He would never forget the bullet Leo had put in him. Leland nodded, grabbed his jacket, and walked out of the room. Notify the NYC coalition. Operation Eradication begins now. Near the Croft Dominion, Gideon and his two comrades, along with the forces of the NYC coalition, were already lying in ambush. Looking at the message on his phone, Gideon's expression grew serious. We have word from Leland Vance. It's time to move. Saul and Camille exchanged a glance. So what do we do? Camille asked, frowning. Do we really do what Sterling said? We'll know if Sterling was lying soon enough. We just have to see if Leo is actually at the Crofts, Saul said coldly. Didn't he say people from the New Century would show up to help us? If the New Century doesn't appear, we can just retreat. Gideon and Camille nodded. At this point, it was their only option. Let's move. Gideon pulled out his walkie-talkie. All units, begin the operation. As his voice fell, figures emerged from the surrounding shadows, forming a tightening perimeter around the Croft Dominion. Meanwhile, Leland Vance led the Meng cartel's forces to surround Leo's former villa. Staring at the house, Leland's brows furrowed. Why was it so quiet inside? Something was wrong. Very, very wrong. A sense of foreboding washed over him. Without hesitation, he barked, "Go in and check it out." "Yes, sir." Several men acknowledged the order and stormed the villa, guns raised. A moment later, one of them ran back out. "It's empty. There's no one inside." Hearing this, Leland's pupils constricted. How could this be? At the same time, his phone vibrated. A call was coming in. He answered it quickly, and Gideon's furious roar erupted from the speaker. "Leland Vance, you son of a bitch. Are you setting us up? What do you mean? What happened on your end? Didn't you say we just had to hold off the Croft Dominion and the Umbra while you took care of Leo?" Outside the Croft Dominion's gates, Gideon's face was a mask of fury. Standing before him, a single figure was smiling and waving a friendly hello. The man waving was Leo Evans. Gideon gritted his teeth, shouting into the phone. "Then you tell me, why the hell is Leo Evans at the Crofts?" "What?" Leland's eyes widened, the words dying in his throat. "Now, is it the Crofts? He can't be. Why would he be there?" 1,000 questions flooded Leland's mind. He knew that some critical part of his plan had gone horribly wrong. The situation had spiraled completely out of his control. "Gideon, listen to me," Leland said, quickly regaining his composure. "Leo must have figured something out. You have to be careful. Hold him off. We're on our way to reinforce you now." With that, Leland hung up. He didn't immediately lead his men toward the Croft Dominion. Instead, he made another call. "Hello, it's me." The call connected, and Leland wasted no time. Leo showed up at the Crofts. "Take your men and support Gideon and the others now." "Understood." Hearing the reply, Leland hung up and finally started heading toward the Croft Dominion, his men in tow. He prayed silently, "Gideon, you have a hold on. Leland Vance, screw you and your entire family tree." At that moment, Gideon and his comrades were cursing every ancestor Leland Vance ever had. The moment he saw Leo, he knew Sterling had been telling the truth. Leo really had teamed up with Leland Vance. Their goal was to wipe them out. On the battlefield, the NYC Coalition's forces were putting up a desperate resistance. Leo watched from a distance, holding his familiar megaphone to his lips. To the leaders of the NYC Coalition, listen up. You've walked right into a trap. Surrender is your only way out. We promise to treat our prisoners well. Surrender now. Listening to Leo's taunts, Gideon's crew looked like they had just eaten shit. Treat prisoners well? They believed that when hell froze over. From his vantage point, Leo lowered the megaphone, a smile playing on his lips. The NYC Coalition looked battered, but they hadn't suffered any real casualties. He was intentionally holding back. If he crippled them now, who would he use as cannon fodder later? Just then, several black cars suddenly appeared behind the Coalition's lines. Leo raised an eyebrow. Leland shouldn't have arrived this quickly. Soon, a man stepped out of the lead car, and it certainly wasn't Leland Vance. "That's Cyrus Lynn." Kalen Croft frowned. "I didn't think Leland Vance had another card like this up his sleeve." Cyrus Lynn. Leo sized up the man in the distance. Behind him, Leo saw another familiar face. Marcus Lynn. The guy had finally shown his face again. He looked different now. The arrogant air he once carried had been replaced by something colder. He saw Leo at the same time, and his eyes filled with a chilling hatred. Leo Evans. Marcus gritted his teeth, his gaze locked on the figure he had wanted to kill in countless nightmares. If it weren't for Leo, he never would have ended up like this. Don't let your emotions control you. Haven't you learned your lesson yet? Cyrus's cold voice snapped Marcus back to reality. Up ahead, Gideon and the others saw Cyrus Lynn appear, and their hearts sank. It was over. To kill them, Leland had even played his trump card, Cyrus Lynn. Just as they fell into despair, the situation changed again. To everyone's surprise, another group of people suddenly emerged from the surroundings. They all wore masks, and a cold, menacing aura emanated from them. Ethan Sia, also masked, stood at their head and shouted, "Leaders of the Coalition, we of the new century have arrived." Hearing that shout, Gideon and his comrades nearly burst into tears. They're finally here. In moments, Ethan and his men charged into the battle, forming a line in front of Gideon's forces and absorbing all the pressure. "Leaders will hold Leo Evans off," Ethan said grimly, not turning back. "You go take care of Cyrus Lynn and his men. Our leader is holding back Leland Vance, but he can't keep him occupied for long, so you must be quick." His words instantly hardened the expressions of Gideon and the others. No wonder Leland hadn't shown up himself. Sterling was holding him back for their sake. "Don't worry, brother," Gideon said solemnly. "You just hold on. As soon as we deal with Cyrus Lynn, we'll come help you." With that, Gideon led the NYC Coalition in a sharp turn, charging straight at Cyrus Lynn and his men. Cyrus frowned, bewildered. What is going on? Have the NYC Coalition lost their minds?" "Gideon, what do you think you're doing?" Cyrus Lynn's face was dark as he roared. "Was it your families who ordered you to do this?" From his perspective, the only reason the NYC Coalition would suddenly turn on them was that their families back home wanted Leland Vance dead. "Oomph. And you have the gall to accuse us." Gideon's eyes were bloodshot. "At this point, I'm done wasting words on you. You don't deserve an explanation. Kill them. Make it fast." In an instant, the NYC Coalition and Cyrus Lynn's forces clashed. The Coalition, having just been suppressed and humiliated, fought with a ferocity that was shocking. Cyrus's men couldn't hold their ground. From a distance, Ethan Sia and his men put on a show of fighting while gleefully watching the chaos unfold. Leo's plan was simply diabolical. Meanwhile, Leland Vance was still on his way when he received an update on his phone. His pupils contracted. "Stop the car," he yelled. Rushing to the Croft Dominion now would be reckless. The vehicle screeched to a halt, the driver looking at Leland in confusion. Leland's expression was grim. He took a deep breath, his mind racing. The NYC Coalition. They betrayed us. This isn't right. It's all wrong. Why would they side with Leo? No, from Cyrus's report, they didn't side with Leo. They sided with the new century. When did they even make contact with the new century? Leland felt a massive headache coming on. There were too many things he couldn't figure out. But with such a major turn of events, Operation Eradication had already half failed. The NYC Coalition. If that's how it's going to be, then don't blame me for what comes next. Leland's eyes were filled with a cold fury. No one had ever double-crossed him and gotten away with it. Split the men in half. One group comes with me to help Cyrus's forces retreat. The other half head to the suburbs now and wipe out Gideon's base camp. The main cartel's forces quickly divided. One contingent followed Leland toward the Croft Dominion. The other sped toward the outskirts of Iridian. At the same time, back at the Crofts. The new century. You dare interfere? Aren't you afraid I'll come after you? Leo shouted for all to hear. Others may fear you, Leo Evans, but the new century does not. Ethan yelled back. Surrender now, Leo. Once our brothers from the coalition kill Cyrus Lynn, you and Leland Vance will be next. The two of them went back and forth, with Leo even theatrically pulling out a sniper rifle and firing a few shots at Ethan. Those shots, however, were tinged with a bit of personal animosity, and they came so close that Ethan nearly went on strike. You son of a bitch, using this as an excuse to get back at me. Ethan seethed under his breath. You just wait. After this is over, if you don't make it up to me, I'm donating all $3 million of your dollars to charity. Behind him, Saul glanced back at Ethan with a look of awe. As expected of a master from the new century, to be able to dodge even Leo Evans's bullets. Leo's skill with a sniper was legendary among the Viridian factions. So far, only Nighthawk could reliably evade his shots at a certain distance. For this man to do the same suggested an extremely high level of skill. Could this be the new century's second-in-command? At that thought, Saul quickly shouted to Ethan, Brother, hold on, we're coming to help you soon. Ethan froze for a second, then yelled back, Don't worry, brother. I won't let them interfere with you until you are victorious. Saul's heart swelled with emotion. What a good brother. The people of a new century are truly sincere. Their exchange fired up the NYC coalition even more. They had to win this for their brothers in the new century. They had to take down Cyrus Lynn. Kalen Croft watched the scene with a complex expression, shaking his head and sighing. It was too cruel. He couldn't even imagine the reaction of the coalition members when they finally learned the truth. They would probably explode from sheer rage. And Leo's crew, every single one of them, was a born actor. The coalition was being sold down the river while still calling their betrayers brother. Leo watched the battle, his eyes glinting. He keyed his radio. Zara, what's Leland's ETA? About 10 minutes. And he split his forces. Half of them are heading toward the suburbs. The suburbs? Leo paused, then understood. Leland was pulling a sneak attack, going after their base camp. What a rat. 10 minutes. Gideon's crew probably can't finish them off by then. Leo was getting impatient. What was wrong with the NYC coalition? It had been this long, and they still hadn't killed Cyrus Lynn? Had they not been working on their skills all these years? Fine, looks like I have to handle it myself. Uncle Kalen, the situation here is stable for now. I'll leave it to you and Annie Julia. Kalen glanced at him and nodded curtly. He was the head of the Croft Dominion, after all. If he couldn't manage a situation like this, he might as well just die. Julia said softly, Leo, be careful. Make sure you stay safe. Don't worry, Andy. I'll be right back. With that, Leo put down his sniper rifle, picked up a small backpack, and prepared to go play the part of the little boy who sells hand grenades. Marco, let's go. Right away, Mr. Evans. Marco answered, following Leo quietly to the garage at the back of the estate. Leo got in the back seat. We need to cut Leland off, which means you're going to have to drive fast. Marco took a deep breath and slowly closed his eyes. For so many years, I've held myself back. After losing to Riker, I never drove fast again. But now, I will take back what is rightfully mine. Leo's mouth twitched. He said flatly, stop being a weirdo and just drive. All right, okay. Marco's eyes snapped open. He stomped on the gas. The engine let out a pained scream, and the car shot forward like a bolt of lightning. Leo sucked in a sharp breath. The G-force was intense. Wait, Marco, you've actually got it in you. Leo glanced at the speedometer and sucked in another breath. Holy shit, 300 kilometers per hour. And that was the car's limit, not Marco's. Leo had never even hit 300 in a video game, and Marco was doing it for real. He didn't even slow down for the drifts. Meanwhile, back at the main cartel's compound, to deal with Leo, Leland Vance had taken most of the family's manpower, leaving only a handful of guards behind. The estate felt eerily deserted. However, Nighthawk had also stayed. With him there, Jasper Kane was as safe as he could be. Jasper sat in a chair, his face etched with anxiety. I wonder how things are going. I hope they managed to eliminate Leo. Nighthawk sat silently to the side. He desperately wanted to be with Leland, to kill Leo with his own hands. Babysitting this useless trash, Jasper Kane, was infuriating. In his view, no minor faction would have the guts to attack the main cartel at a time like this. Feeling agitated, Nighthawk stubbed out his cigarette and stood up. I'm going for a walk. Without waiting for a reply, he turned and left. Jasper frowned, about to say something, but Nighthawk had already opened the door. In the next instant, both men froze. Nighthawk's eyes widened in disbelief at the scene before him. The courtyard outside was filled with men in black, countless gun barrels aimed directly at him. It was as if they had been waiting for some time. Nighthawk's expression turned ugly. When had these people infiltrated the compound? Why hadn't he heard a single sound? Oh, you're out, a voice called. Several of the black-clad men stepped aside. A man was sitting leisurely in a chair, watching Nighthawk with great interest. Jasper came forward, and when he saw the man's face, a shiver ran down his spine. Sterling, what are you doing here? Sterling chuckled. Isn't it obvious? I'm here to raid your base, of course. Jasper's face contorted as if he'd eaten a turd. He would rather be facing Leo than Sterling. At the same time, he saw another person. Adrian, the third in command of the New Century. In that moment, he understood. You're the leader of the New Century. That's me, Sterling nodded, admitting it freely. Jasper frowned and glanced at Nighthawk, who slowly shook his head. There was nothing he could do. As strong as he was powerless against so many guns already aimed and ready. This was checkmate. Seeing Nighthawk's signal, Jasper's heart filled with despair. Sterling, there's no point in killing me, he said, gritting his teeth. I know, Sterling said, standing up. Don't worry, I'm not here to kill you. Hand it over. Jasper's pupils shrank. He stammered, I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, but you do, Sterling's tone was playful. What I want is the activator. Jasper's heart sank to the bottom of his stomach, and a cold sweat broke out on his back. Sterling actually knew. In truth, Jasper had never planted any explosives. That was just a story for the outside world. Viridian City wasn't the crucible. Its land area was several times larger. The amount of explosives needed to destroy the entire city was an astronomical figure, an impossibility. However, he did possess the means to destroy Viridian. After long, secret discussions with Leland Vance, they had come up with another way. An artificial earthquake. Using a special device, they could trigger a massive earthquake across Viridian, achieving the same destructive effect. This was a top-tier secret, known only to him and Leland. And only the two of them knew where the activator for that seismic device was kept. How on earth did Sterling know about it? Since you know, what do you plan to do with it? Jasper asked gravely. Isn't it obvious? Sterling replied matter-of-factly. My goal is to destroy Viridian. Are you insane? Jasper blurted out. What good would destroying Viridian do you? Sterling just smiled. Guess. Jasper felt sick. He hated talking to people like Sterling. Everything was a guessing game. Guess my ass. Seeing his frustration, Sterling laughed. It's fine if you don't want to talk. Those other guys are busy outside. We have plenty of time. I have a lot of people here with experience in persuasion. I guarantee you'll have a great time. Jasper's eye twitched. Before he could speak, Nighthawk silently raised his hands. I surrender, he said flatly. He was just a hired gun. No need to die for this. And in this situation, only an idiot would resist. Sterling glanced at Nighthawk, an eyebrow raised. I remember you. Weren't you the one that ghost hunted for a week straight? I'm surprised you managed to escape him alive. You got some skill. Jasper's eyes widened as he stared at Nighthawk. You son of a bitch, you told me you fought the ghost to a standstill. Turns out you were just getting your ass chased. Nighthawk's expression remained unchanged. He avoided Jasper's gaze, looking perfectly calm. Sterling nodded in satisfaction. Good. The wise man submits to fate. He then turned back to Jasper. He surrendered. What about you? Jasper's face was grim. He let out a long sigh. I'll give you the activator, but you have to promise not to kill me. If you must kill me, make it quick. Sterling shook his head gently. Relax. I'm only here for the device. I won't kill you. Jasper gave him a long, hard look, then said in a low voice, Follow me. He turned and walked back into the house. Sterling followed, and Adrian quickly warned, Boss, be careful of traps. Sterling just smiled, unconcerned, and followed Jasper inside. Elsewhere, Leo was now looking at Marco with pure admiration. Marco. No, coach. You have to teach me how to drive when we get back. I'm desperate to improve. In that short time, Leo had been completely won over by Marco's driving skills. You're joking, Mr. Evans. My skills are nothing compared to yours, Marco said humbly, scratching his head. They had now reached a point on the road that Leland's convoy would have to pass. All right, Mr. Evans, I'll leave the rest to you. I'm going to find a safe place to hide. Marco knew his limits. He was no use in the fight to come. Leo nodded, slung his small backpack over his shoulder, and got out of the car. He walked to the middle of the road, stretched his limbs, and took a deep breath. Now he would stop Leland Vance and his men all by himself. After parking the car, Marco hid in a corner, cautiously watching Leo in the middle of the road. With a cool flick of his wrist, Leo tossed several grenades from his pack, which landed with pinpoint accuracy exactly where he wanted them. He slung his sniper rifle over his back, holding only a pistol in his hand. In the distance, the faint roar of engines grew louder. Leland Vance and his men were approaching. Leo remained standing in the center of the road. He took a deep breath, his tone tinged with a tragic air. For so long, I have faced countless life-and-death crises. To have made it this far, I have relied solely on my superior intellect and my unyielding will. Now allow me to show you just how much effort I, Leo Evans, have put in to achieve what I have today. Hiding nearby, Marco listened with a look of pure worship. That's our Mr. Evans. The style, the sheer presence, it's off the charts. In the distance, Leland's convoy appeared in Leo's line of sight. Leo took one last deep breath, his expression utterly serious, and shouted internally. System, give me the hacks. Gale Force, activate. Shameless. The system had been professionally trained and usually remained silent, unless it absolutely couldn't hold back. Leo paid it no mind. A familiar power surged through his body, bringing a confident smile to his face. He casually took a few steps back, making sure he wouldn't be caught in the blasts. Then, with a grin, he gently raised his pistol. Hey, someone's up ahead, the driver of Leland's car said, confused. He honked the horn aggressively, but the person in the middle of the road didn't move. The hell? You got a death wish. The driver's road rage flared. He rolled down his window, ready to unleash a torrent of curses. Then he saw Leo slowly raise his gun. The window shot back up, his road rage instantly cured. In the back seat, Leland leaned forward to get a better look and saw Leo's familiar, sickening smile. Frowning, he was about to order the driver to run him over when his eyes widened. Wait, why is Leo aiming his gun at the ground? Shit. Leland instantly knew something was wrong. Without waiting for the driver to react, he decisively threw open the car door and dove out. The moment he hit the pavement, Leo pulled the trigger. Crack! The bullet struck one of the grenades on the ground. The blast wave instantly flipped the car into the air. Leland wasn't much better off. Even though he had immediately dropped to the ground, he was still badly injured. Ambush! Leland roared, ignoring his injuries. The cars behind them immediately swerved, forming a protective barrier in front of him. There are grenades on the ground. Watch out, Leland warned. Leo stood in the middle of the road, his face impassive, calmly firing his pistol. Crack! Boom! Crack! Boom! After a few more shots, the street was a sea of fire. Leland's convoy was almost entirely disabled. Now, Evans! Leland roared, then commanded his remaining men. Focus all fire on Leo. Don't let him get away. But as soon as the words left his mouth, Leo was already a good distance away. Acting tough was fun for a moment, but facing that many people was still a bit much. Hit and run was the best strategy. Leland, come and get me if you've got the guts. Leo yelled without looking back. You went to all this trouble just to kill me, right? Well, here I am. Come and get me. Why are you so slow? Why aren't you driving? Don't you like cars? Leland, why are your eyes so red? Leland, is your zodiac sign a rabbit? Leland, do you eat carrots? Leo was still running, and Leo's mouth was still firing. Behind him, Leland was about to explode with rage. Without vehicles, they could barely keep up with Leo, let alone make it to the Croft Dominion. Now, Evans! Just then, another roar echoed through the street. A black motorcycle shot out from the convoy, heading straight for Leo. The rider was none other than Zeke Foam, who had escaped from Westlake City. All this time, he had been secretly acting as Leland's bodyguard. Seeing this, he could no longer hold back. If it weren't for Leo, he wouldn't have been so humiliatingly captured by the BSO in Westlake City. He wouldn't have been tricked by Director Shong, which led to Donovan Vance's death. This was all because of Leo. Zeke, kill him, Leland shouted, overjoyed at the sight. Leo heard the noise and glanced back, his eyes meeting Zeke's. A flicker of confusion crossed Leo's face. Who the fuck are you? Pfft. Zeke nearly coughed up a lungful of blood. He considered Leo his mortal enemy, and the guy couldn't even remember who he was. Now, Evans. Bang, bang, bang. Zeke angrily drew his pistol and fired several shots at Leo, but Leo dodged them all with ease. This guy is kind of trash, Leo thought to himself. He charged in with such ferocity, Leo thought he might be someone formidable. But based on those shots, he wasn't even on Nighthawk's level, maybe not even as good as Cole, who gave him the courage to charge to his death. But then, Leo's gaze fixed on Zeke's motorcycle, and his eyes lit up. He was just thinking he needed a ride, and here one was delivered right to him. Without hesitation, Leo turned, pulled a grenade from his pocket, and tossed it. What? Zeke saw the grenade in the air, and his eyes widened, realizing his peril. He quickly raised his own gun and shot the grenade before it got too close, detonating it in midair. Boom! The explosion forced him to brake and swerve, shielding his head with his arm and momentarily losing sight of his target. When he lowered his arm, Leo was gone. Damn it! Did he get away? Zeke cursed, frustrated. He was about to start the motorcycle to give chase when a voice that made his blood run cold came from right behind him. Hee. Here comes the cheap shot. What? Zeke gasped. Before he could turn his head, he felt a heavy blow from a club to the back of his skull. His vision went black, and Zeke fell straight off the motorcycle. Only then did Leo recognize his face. TCH, isn't this the same idiot who walked right into a trap last time? What a good guy. He even brought me a motorcycle. I'm starting to suspect you're one of my guys, working undercover for Leland. On account of you being so stupid, I'll spare your life. Leo kicked Zeke to the side, hopped on the motorcycle, and glanced back at Leland and his men, who were quickly catching up. He raised a hand and gave them a wave. Bye-bye, Leland. Let's play again sometime. With that, Leo was about to ride off when he suddenly froze, the smile stiffening on his face. He had forgotten one very important thing. He had never ridden a motorcycle before. Shit, this isn't like an electric scooter at all. Leo cursed. He had no idea how to start the motorcycle. He only knew how to ride a scooter and had assumed they were basically the same thing. For a moment, unable to start the bike, Leo's face began to turn red. He had just delivered a bold taunt to Leland. If he had to get off the motorcycle now and run away on foot, how embarrassing would that be? Mr. Evans, I've got it. Marco's voice rang out as he ran up beside him. Leo breathed a sigh of relief. Thank God for Marco. He immediately slid back, letting Marco take the front seat. Vroom, as expected of Marco. The moment he got on, his hands and feet moved in a blur, engaging the clutch and shifting gears in one smooth motion. Atavoy, Marco, let's ride. Leo slapped Marco on the shoulder with a grin. But Mr. Evans, we're not wearing helmets. Won't we be a bad influence on the kids? It's fine. Good kids know what to copy and what not to. All right, hold on tight, Mr. Evans. Marco released the clutch, and the motorcycle shot forward, carrying them away from the scene. Behind them, Leland finally stopped running, his face a mask of utter fury. Leo Evans. He gritted his teeth, then glanced at the unconscious Zeke on the ground. Useless. Director Vance, what do we do now? What do you think we do? Find some cars now. Leland roared. Without cars, are we supposed to run all the way to back up Cyrus Lynn? The man flinched at the outburst. Why, yes, sir. We'll find some cars right away. As the man scurried off, Leland let out a cold snort, taking deep breaths to calm his raging emotions. It was a mess. A total mess. Nothing that had happened tonight had gone according to plan. And it was all because of that chaos magnet, Leo Evans. He had even played his trump card, Cyrus Lynn, and now that card was in danger of being eliminated. Still, things haven't reached the worst-case scenario yet, Leland thought, exhaling slowly. As long as Jasper Kane protects that device and nothing goes wrong, it's not a total disaster. Thinking this, his emotions began to settle. Back at the main cartel's compound, Sterling watched the device before him with great interest. It was smaller than he'd imagined. Jasper Kane stood nearby, his expression complicated. That's right. Within a certain range of the seismic devices, pressing that activator will trigger an earthquake that will cover all of Iridian in 2 hours. The activator requires a fingerprint to arm. Right now, only my print and Leland's can activate it. Sterling nodded thoughtfully. You said a certain range. How large is that range? Basically, as long as you don't go past the suburbs. How many seismic devices are there? And where are they? At this question, Jasper hesitated. If he told him that, he would have no value left. Sterling smiled. Really? At this point, do you think hiding that information has any meaning? Jasper's face flashed with conflict before he sighed in defeat. There are 4 devices, one in each of the 4 corners of Iridian. North, south, east, and west. One of them is right under this house. Hiding in plain sight, are we? Sterling chuckled. Leland's idea, I assume. Jasper remained silent. Who made these 4 devices? Someone from the Vance Dominion. I heard he's an expert in the field, a professor at NYC University. What's his name? I don't know. Leland wouldn't give me too much information. Sterling nodded, stroking his chin thoughtfully. A professor at NYC University, an expert in seismology, and from the Vance Dominion. Yeah, I think I know who it is. Is that guy still alive? Jasper shook his head. I don't know, but I guess he is. He's still useful to Leland. I thought you were loyal to Leland, Sterling asked curiously. Why are you telling me everything I ask? Jasper gave a bitter smile. In this world, in the face of death, who can be truly loyal to whom? When it comes to a choice between loyalty and one's own life, it doesn't take a genius to guess which one most people would choose. Sterling nodded in agreement. Can't argue with that. He didn't look down on Jasper for his survival instinct. Most people in the world were the same. Compared to one's own life, everything else was secondary, disposable. Only a rare few would find something they valued more than their own life. Some called it conviction, others called it some other nonsense. But there was no doubt that when a person found something more important than life itself, they gained the power to face death without fear. Two of you, come and move this thing, Sterling called over a few of his men, who began to carry the activator out. Jasper watched them silently. Sterling, are you really going to destroy Viridian? Duh. Why else would I steal your activator? What's your reason? Guess. Jasper shut his mouth. He was truly done talking to this guy. Sterling glanced at him and smiled, shaking his head. You'll find out when the time comes. For the next few days, though, I'll need your cooperation. After all, you said the activator needs your fingerprint. Of course, if you're willing to give us your finger, we wouldn't object. Jasper replied without hesitation. I'll cooperate. Sterling nodded, satisfied. First, write down the specific locations of the 4 seismic devices for me. Then I'll need you to make an appearance. Make an appearance? What do you mean? You'll see, Sterling said with a mysterious smile, then left the main compound with the activator and Jasper in tow. He didn't bother with Nighthawk, neither killing him nor taking him prisoner. For now, there was only one thing, or rather, one person, that mattered to Sterling. Soon, Sterling brought Jasper to an abandoned factory. Men from the New Century stood guard at the entrance. Principal Chapman was leaning against the doorframe, looking up as Sterling got out of the car. You got it. It went pretty smoothly, Sterling said with a smile, then added with a sigh, in a way we have Leo and his crew to thank for drawing the attention of all the other factions. And he even impersonated us, making all the major players think the New Century was also on the battlefield at the Crofts. We really owe him one. Chapman gave Sterling a long, searching look. As Sterling said, it had all gone far too smoothly, and the idea that Sterling himself hadn't had a hand in creating this perfect situation. Chapman didn't quite believe it, but he had no proof. Is everything ready on your end? Sterling asked. Chapman nodded. We've been ready for a while. Just waiting for you. Then, let's begin. Back at the battlefield, near the Croft Dominion, Kane had taken over Leo's position, holding the megaphone and shouting from a distance, You bastard from the New Century. You can still get out of here if you leave now. Now what's wrong? Scared? Ethan Sia retorted with a smirk. Oomph. You've refused a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Everyone attack. Kill them all. Leave no one alive. Kane ordered grimly. Brothers, for the sake of our comrades from the NYC coalition behind us, we must hold on no matter what. Ethan roared. And so, an incredibly bizarre scene unfolded on the battlefield. On Ethan's side, the sounds of battle were deafening, a cacophony of shouts and clashes that sounded horrific. But there were 0 casualties. In stark contrast, on the other side of the field where the NYC coalition fought Cyrus Lynn, the battle sounds were less dramatic, but the ground was littered with bodies. Both sides were taking heavy losses. Cyrus Lynn clearly noticed this discrepancy and immediately sensed that something was wrong. Gideon, stop fighting. Turn around and look. Something isn't right. The New Century might be putting on an act with Leo Evans. But no matter how loudly Cyrus shouted, Gideon and the others didn't turn back. Heh, Cyrus Lynn, I thought you were a man of some stature. Now that the battle is turning against you, you resort to such lies. Camille sneered. No matter what, you won't be escaping today. Gideon and Saul nodded in agreement. In their eyes, Cyrus was trying to get them to turn around so he could launch a surprise attack and reverse the tide of the battle. At the same time, he was using his words to sow doubt in their hearts. Therefore, they absolutely could not turn their heads. Seeing this, Cyrus was so angry he started cursing. You absolute morons! Is there something wrong with your brains? Why did your family send 3 idiots like you to Viridian? You're being sold out, and you're still counting the money for them. What do you have between your ears? Just then, Ethan's voice rang out again. Brother Gideon, don't believe their lies. You've met our leader. He would never betray his allies. Hearing this, the three coalition leaders became even more convinced that Cyrus Lynn was up to no good. That was right, they had met Sterling. A man like that had no reason to team up with Leo and put on a show just to deceive them. Don't worry, brother. The NYC coalition has absolute trust in its allies. Gideon shouted without turning back. With a wave of his hand, he commanded his forces to attack again. Damn it! Marcus Lynn, clutching a wounded arm, retreated to Cyrus's side. We can't hold him. What do we do now? Cyrus's brows were tightly furrowed. By his calculations, Leland Vance should have arrived long ago. But there was still no sign of him, which likely meant something had gone wrong. At that thought, a look of grim determination crossed Cyrus's face. We have to save ourselves, he said in a low voice. Release it. Marcus didn't hesitate. He immediately ran toward the rear of their position where a large truck was parked. It was the vehicle they had driven here, and inside, it carried an asset just like Spencer foam. Marcus ran to the back of the truck, yanked the pin, and threw the doors open. Inside, a person lay quietly, seemingly asleep. Unlike Spencer Fang's monstrous appearance, this asset looked much more human. Without a second thought, Marcus grabbed a syringe filled with a pale green liquid from a nearby case and plunged it into the asset's neck. After injecting the unknown substance, Marcus stood up, his eyes fixed on the figure. 1 second, 2 seconds. After a full 10 seconds, the asset's eyes shot open. Its mouth opened, and a hoarse voice rasped. Leland. Damn. Seeing this, Marcus's eyes narrowed. It still retains a sliver of consciousness. It seems this number 2 is easier to control than that useless Spencer foam. The next moment, experiment number 2 shot to its feet, let out a roar, and punched a massive hole through the side of the truck. Marcus scrambled back, getting clear of it. The asset stepped out through the hole, breathing heavily as it looked around, its voice a ragged growl. Damn. Its appearance immediately drew the attention of everyone on the battlefield. Cyrus Lynn took advantage of the stunned silence to lead his men in a retreat. Gideon and the others stared at the newcomer, swallowing hard. Hey, Gideon, that's not an asset, is it? Camille said, her expression numb. Cyrus Lynn. No, it must be Leland Vance. He actually managed to create a second one. Gideon's face was grim as he nodded. According to our intel, the Vance Dominion used an asset back in Westlake City. After they set that precedent, the other major families in NYC started trying to do the same. If they didn't, they would eventually be wiped out by the Vance Dominion's assets. But after trying, they found that the resources and money required to create such an asset were astronomical. Even with our 3 families combined, we've only managed to create one. Beside him, Saul spoke, his eyes cold. And from the looks of it, this one seems to have retained some consciousness and holds a deep grudge against the Vance Dominion. This was a major development. Spencer Foam had been a mindless monster, but now, this unknown asset before them could retain consciousness and even speak. This meant that Leland Vance must have made significant progress in his research. If this continued, he might actually be able to create super soldiers who retained their full consciousness and had no side effects. But before they could finish their analysis, the asset roared and charged at them. The retreating members of Cyrus Lynn's own forces who were in its path were also torn apart. It made no distinction between friend and foe. Damn it! Open fire! Stop it! This is bad. Fear flickered in the eyes of Gideon and the others. They knew how difficult an asset was to deal with. They stood no chance of stopping it on their own. From a distance, Ethan C.S. saw this too. After a moment of shock, he stopped what he was doing, immediately pulled out his phone, and dialed Leo's number. Listening to the ringing tone, Ethan's face was a mask of anxiety. Come on, Leo, you son of a bitch. Pick up the phone. We're so screwed. Ethan C. knew that only Leo Evans had a way to deal with an asset. Anyone else should run as far and as fast as they could. Previously, Director Shang and Anthony Reed had Henry Yin study Spencer Fang's physical resilience. The conclusion was that unless the asset's head was hit by the force of 50 or more grenades simultaneously, it was impossible to inflict any substantial damage. During his research, Henry had also discovered something shocking. Spencer Fang had been mindless because his consciousness had already died before he was turned into a monster. In other words, the original Spencer Fang was in a vegetative state. He was half dead, or, as Leo would put it, he was Schrodinger's Spencer Fang. As an asset, he existed in a superposition of dead and not dead. This research led Henry to a terrifying conclusion. Dr. Marx's gene serum is the foundation for a panacea, which means it contains a powerful life energy. The Vance Dominion must have used this life energy to turn the half-dead Spencer Phone into a walking monster. If they continue down this path, my greatest fear might come to pass. They can utilize the half-dead. So, what about the fully dead? If the Vance Dominion succeeds, then zombies, things we've only ever seen in TV shows, might become a reality. Upon hearing this, Director Shang and Anthony Reed immediately realized the gravity of the situation and began to take action. This was why Sterling had been able to come to Viridian alone. Shang and Reed were too preoccupied to deal with him. Damn it, Leo, pick up the phone. Ethan was panicking, watching the asset get closer and closer. The phone just kept ringing. Ethan was on the verge of a breakdown. He prayed, "Please, Leo, I'm begging you. If you just answer the phone, I'll never mention the $3 million again." No sooner had the words left his mouth than the call connected. "Hey, Ethan, why are you blowing up my phone?" Leo's complaining voice came through. Ethan's face lit up. Ignoring what he'd just said, he asked urgently, "Leo, where are you right now?" "On a motorcycle." "A motorcycle? You know how to ride one." "None of your business. If there's nothing else, I'm hanging up." No. I'll make it quick." Ethan swallowed hard. "We've got a huge problem. Cyrus Lynn's crew released an asset, and it's killing everyone." "An asset? Like Spencer Phone?" "Yes, but this one seems a little smarter." "All right, I got it. Your big bro Leo is on his way to save you." With that, Leo hung up, completely unconcerned. An asset? What kind of useless hack was that? Could it still make a sound after he hit it with his stick? "Marco." Leo was about to tell Marco to speed up when Marco, still driving, gave a slight wave of his hand, cutting him off. The wave wasn't a refusal. It meant, "Say no more, Mr. Evans." Marco let out a contemptuous smirk and tapped his left foot down. Full throttle. The wind messed up Leo's hair, but his eyes were filled with worship. "Marco, you are my god. It turns out you were the best support this season after all. What Kent even good for? He doesn't even have his gun anymore. Maybe next season." Back on the battlefield, Ethan breathed a small sigh of relief after hanging up. It looked like as long as the brothers from the NYC coalition could hold on for a little while, everything would be fine once Leo arrived. As for Cyrus Lynn and his men, they had already taken advantage of the chaos to scatter and escape. Ethan didn't bother pursuing them. He knew better than to chase a desperate enemy. "Damn it, don't engage it head-on. Fall back." Gideon yelled. "We can't beat it. Look for a chance to escape." The men of the NYC coalition gave bitter smiles. They wanted to run. But the asset was not only fast, it was also incredibly perceptive. Anyone who tried to flee from its vicinity was immediately detected and met with a punch that sent them to meet their maker. Damn. The asset kept repeating, which was starting to annoy everyone. "You have a problem with the Vance Dominion. Go find them. Why are you attacking us?" But they all knew communication was pointless. Although this asset retained a sliver of consciousness, it was still completely irrational, driven only by the urge to kill. From a distance, Kaylin Croft was watching the scene unfold. Julia Reed stood beside him, a grave look in her eyes. "Old man Croft, do you think that asset's face looks familiar?" Kaylin nodded grimly. "I was just about to say the same thing. I feel like I've seen him somewhere before." He squinted, trying to make out the face. Suddenly, Julia spoke. "I know who he is." "Who?" "Patriarche Kines sont Preston Keen." Julia's expression was complex. When the Qin Directorate fell, Patriarch Qin, as its leader, naturally went down with his family, dying in that battle. His son, Preston, was also said to have been killed by the Vance Dominion. But it seems Leland Vance didn't kill him. Instead, he turned him into this thing that's neither human nor monster. Kaylin's face was a picture of shock. "Preston Qin. It's really him. Does that mean he's the sole survivor of the Qin Directorate?" Julia nodded, sighing. If Patriarch Qin had known his son would end up like this, he might have killed him with his own hands. It would have been better than this. "This isn't the time for that," Kaylin said, his eyes darkening. "We have no way to deal with this asset. If this goes on, we're all going to die. Cyrus Lynn could run. The NYC coalition could run. He couldn't. This was his home. He had nowhere to go. What are you panicking for?" Julia chuckled softly. "My son-in-law will be here soon. Everything will be fine. Now, what can he do?" "Yeah, you really are out of the loop, old man. But I suppose the BSO classified what happened in Westlake City." Julia's lips curved into a smile. "My dear old husband gave my son-in-law a special title. He calls him the Asset Killer." Just as Julia finished speaking, the roar of an engine echoed in the distance. A black motorcycle was approaching. Seeing the figure on the back, Julia smiled. He's here. Kaylin's eyes were still filled with doubt. The power Preston Sheen was displaying was far beyond what any normal person could handle. Only a weapon of immense destructive power could possibly take him down. How could Leo possibly do it? Mr. Evans, the asset they're talking about must be that guy up ahead, Marco said, slowing down as he eyed Preston Sheen. Leo saw him too and patted Marco on the shoulder. All right, Marco, this is good. Stop here. Marco parked the bike. Leo dismounted casually and pulled a black collapsible baton from his waist. Leo, Evans? What do you think you're doing? Gideon and the others shouted, their eyes wary as Leo suddenly appeared. What do you think? I'm here to save you. You have a way to deal with this monster? Of course. But I have one condition, Leo said with a slight smile. Swear that the NYC coalition will never come after me again, and I'll save you. His words made the faces of Gideon and the others turn cold. Leo was taking advantage of their crisis. Phoenix. But you also have to guarantee that you won't come after us, Gideon said, making a swift decision. The situation was too urgent to hesitate. Good. Then make your oaths, Leo said, leisurely holding his baton. Gideon's face was ashen. Preston Sheen was still rampaging, and every minute they wasted meant more of his men would die. This is an emergency. Deal with that thing first. We give you our word. We won't go back on it, he yelled. No, I'm not in a hurry. You swear first, or I'm not lifting a finger. Leo tapped his shoulder with the baton, his tone utterly shameless. You go first. You swear first. Go. Swear. Go. Swear. Leo's stance was unyielding. He refused to budge an inch. Gideon's fists clenched, his mind racing with curses for every one of Leo's ancestors. Left with no choice, he, Camille, and Saul each swore an oath in the name of their respective families. Naturally, Leo recorded the entire thing on his phone. If they broke their promise, their families' reputations would be ruined. While reputation meant little to Leo, it was everything to those major syndicates. If word of this got out, no one would ever dare to do business with them again. Is that good enough? Gideon gritted out, staring at Leo. We've done as you asked. Now will you do something? Of course, Leo said with a grin. He pocketed his phone and strolled toward Preston Sheen. Hey, big guy over there, Leo called out. Look over here. See me up, boy. See me up. He brandished the baton, taunting Preston Sheen as if he were a puppy. Gideon and his men were dumbfounded. Dude, that's an asset, not a test subject dog. Are you trying to get yourself killed? Roar. Preston heard the voice, turned toward Leo, and let out a guttural snarl. Vance! Vance! Damn it. Oh, you've got a beef with the Vances. Leo's grin widened. How about I take you to see Leland Vance? The name Leland Vance seemed to flip a switch. Preston charged furiously at Leo, his blood-soaked hands flailing, looking like he wanted to tear him limb from limb. Seeing this, the smile on Leo's face vanished, replaced by a look of boredom. In full view of everyone, Leo casually tossed the baton into the air. Shit, is he crazy? That's way too arrogant. Can he actually do this? I say we use this chance to get the hell out of here. What is he doing, juggling at a time like this? It's over, it's over. Leo's going to die, and then we're all dead. Ignoring the chatter, Leo's eyes narrowed. Just as Preston was about to reach him, he moved. His hand shot out, grabbing one of Preston's arms. With a slight exertion of force, Leo vaulted over him, using the momentum to land neatly behind the asset. TSK, I thought you might have some awareness, but you're just a beast like Spencer Foam. After muttering this, Leo held out his hand. The baton, which had been spinning in the air, completed its free fall and landed perfectly in his grasp. The physics of the maneuver were probably complex enough to be a final exam question. Leo gripped the baton, aimed for the back of Preston's neck, and brought it down hard. Thwack! The sound echoed with sickening finality. As everyone watched in stunned silence, Preston Sheen pitched forward and collapsed, completely inert. Leo stepped onto his back, looking down at the fallen asset. The thing I hate most, he said calmly, is people who attack without so much as a hello. So classless. From a distance, Kaylin Croft's jaw had dropped so far it could have scooped up a watermelon. That's it. It's over, he stammered, pointing at Leo as he turned to Julia. He took down a Vance Dominion asset with one hit from a stick. Julia was a bit stunned herself. She knew Leo had a way of dealing with assets, but she hadn't expected it to be so direct. It was almost absurd. Hitting someone on the back of the neck could knock them out, sure, but this wasn't a normal person. This was an asset, a monster that bullets couldn't harm. And he took it down with one stick? You're making the rest of us look like idiots. Is it possible that these assets have a weakness? And that weakness is the back of their neck. Kalen speculated wildly, earning a sharp eye roll from Julia. Fine. Next time there's an asset, you go up and hit it on the back of the neck. See how that works out for you. I was just kidding. Kalen fell silent. He realized how stupid his guess sounded. The Vance Dominion had spent years and a fortune in NYC, hiring countless mercenaries and assassins, pouring their blood, sweat, and tears into creating these assets. If they had such an idiotic weakness, Leland Vance would have died of shame long ago. The problem wasn't the asset. The problem was Leo Evans. The guy was just completely off the charts. Part 2. Mandatory separators. On the Croft family's battlefield, Gideon and the others stared blankly at the scene before them, rubbing their eyes in disbelief. The asset, which had just been on a berserk rampage, was taken down by Leo with a single swing of a metal rod. He refused to believe it. In his mind, the rod had to be a distraction. Leo must have used some unknown method to neutralize the asset. He had to know its weakness. The thought made Gideon's expression incredibly grave. Back in NYC, the experimental assets were considered future strategic weapons by the major families. To this day, none of them had discovered a fatal flaw. Yet Leo possessed a method so simple it could incapacitate one instantly. This information must get back to New York. Gideon thought. Leo's threat level could no longer be ignored. This man was potentially more dangerous than Sterling. What are you still gawking at? Not leaving? Or are you thinking of breaking the oath you just swore and making a move on me? Gideon, of course, had no such intention. But as he looked back, he noticed something wasn't right. The soldiers from A New Century and the Chow Dominion. Why did every single one of them seem completely unscathed? Leo saw what he was thinking and said directly, "Don't bother. They're all my people." What? Gideon's pupils contracted. Before he could finish, Ethan Sia took off his mask and waved at Gideon with a smile. Hey, my ass. Gideon wanted to start cursing. What the hell was going on? The New Century's forces were just Ethan Sia in disguise. Then what about Sterling? Gideon's brain felt like it was short-circuiting, but he was certain of one thing. They had been played. As for by whom, it was definitely tied to the man with the sickeningly smug smile right in front of him. Leo raised an eyebrow, about to say something, when Kalen Croft shouted from a distance, "Leo, check your phone." "My phone." Leo pulled it out, confused, and his eyes widened. The screen had been unlocked automatically and was playing a video. The person in the center of the frame was Sterling. What is this? Leo felt a sense of foreboding. He glanced around and saw that many others were in the same situation, Sterling's face appearing on their phones. At the same time, across all of Viridian City, every television and digital billboard lit up with the same image. Without hesitation, Leo grabbed his walkie-talkie. "Zara, I'm on it." Zara's reply was immediate, accompanied by the frantic clatter of a keyboard. The attacker likely hacked into a common app we all use and is using it to force remote control of our phones. It should be the same for everyone else. And looking at the coverage, he's controlling 80% of the electronic displays in Viridian. This is not something that could be done overnight. This hacker's skills are far beyond mine. I can only do my best to trace his location. Even Zara had to admit it now. Her opponent's abilities in computer science completely crushed her own. Gideon and his men also took out their phones, caught off guard by the sudden turn of events. "Good evening, everyone. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Sterling." On the screen, Sterling was smiling, though his face was pale and he looked weak. "I apologize for occupying public resources. I'm doing this because there is something I wish to inform you all of." Meanwhile, Leland Vance, who had just gotten in his car to head to the Croft compound, saw the live broadcast. His brow furrowed, his sense of unease growing stronger as he stared at Sterling's face. Sterling's tone shifted. He spoke slowly. "In 3 days, at 8 p.m., that is, on New Year's Eve, I will destroy Viridian City." At those words, Leland's pupils shrank. Destroy Viridian? Could it be? That's right, Leland Vance. It's exactly what you think. As if he could read Leland's mind through the screen, Sterling reached out and turned the camera. A man, bound securely, appeared on screen, looking at the camera with a complicated expression. It was the captured Jasper Kane. Damn it, Leland couldn't hold it in any longer. He roared, "Useless! Useless! Useless!" The moment he saw Jasper Kane, he knew. It was all over. The camera panned back to Sterling, who faced the screen and continued slowly. "Everyone, I'm sure you all know what it means for Jasper Kane to be in my hands. My friends in Viridian City, I will give you 3 days to escape with your lives. After 3 days, for those who remain, let us, along with Viridian, be annihilated into nothingness. This is the stance of the New Century presented to the world. And with that, I wish you all a good night. On the screen, Sterling smiled and waved goodbye. Then, every screen went black. Zara, stop tracing, Leo said flatly. On the other end of the walkie-talkie, Zara's fingers stopped clattering against the keyboard. Her face was a mask of dejection. Got it, she answered softly. Ava, standing beside her, placed a hand on her shoulder. It's okay, Zara. You did an amazing job. Zara remained silent. The blow to her pride was immense. She hadn't managed to find a single shred of useful information. In that brief hacking duel, her opponent had played her like a fiddle. Ava didn't know what else to say to comfort her, but it didn't matter now. Because outside, the world had already descended into chaos. Damn it, what the hell is Sterling trying to do? Has he lost his mind? He's a psycho. A complete psycho. I'm getting out of here. What does this even mean? Is it a prank? That guy just said he's going to destroy Viridian. Oh no, the tickets out of Viridian are all sold out. What do we do? Hell, what's the panic? I bet it's just a sick joke. Leo watched the panicked crowd, his brow tightly furrowed. Suddenly, his phone vibrated. He picked it up, and his pupils contracted. On his screen, Sterling was still smiling. His feed hadn't been cut. Through the screen, Leo and Sterling stared at each other. Sterling spoke slowly. Leo, do you think you can stop me? Leo, do you think you can stop me? Hearing Sterling's bizarre question, Leo frowned. What's that supposed to mean? How many people do you think can escape Viridian in 3 days? Sterling, spit it out. Facing Leo's demand, Sterling smiled faintly. Leo, you people aren't getting out. As of this moment, every route out of Viridian City has been sealed off by me. Even the backwoods mountain paths have my men watching them. Leo's face was expressionless. Sterling, do you really think your men can stop me? Of course not. Sterling knew Leo's capabilities. He wouldn't delude himself into thinking his men could stop everyone. People like Leland Vance or Gideon had plenty of ways to leave Viridian. He couldn't stop them. He didn't need to. They weren't his targets. The people Sterling wanted to trap were the ordinary citizens of Viridian, the ones without power or factions. But Leo, will you leave? Sterling's voice was calm. Can you really stand by and watch those ordinary people die? What's it to me? Leo shot back bluntly. What does their survival have to do with me? Sterling, you don't actually think I'm some kind of saint, do you? Of course not. But what if you had a chance to save them? Sterling's tone changed, deepening. Leo, if there was a chance for you to save the countless people of Viridian, would you still leave? Leo's expression shifted subtly. What are you getting at? There are only 2 ways to save Viridian. Sterling slowly held up 2 fingers. First, kill me. If you can kill me, then I guarantee Viridian will be safe. The new century will not retaliate against you. Leo's gaze sharpened. And the second is even simpler, Sterling said slowly. All you have to do is stand before me in 3 days and answer a single question. Based on your answer, I will decide whether or not to destroy Viridian. Sterling, are you out of your damn mind? Leo cursed. Are you threatening me? Using the lives of everyone in Viridian for the answer to one question? To be precise, for your answer to this question, Sterling replied, his expression unchanging. Leo's mouth twitched. He was about to let loose another string of curses, but Sterling cut him off. Sterling, you son of a, that's enough. I'll see you in 3 days. Leo's phone screen went black. The feed was gone, giving him no opportunity to get the last word. He was so frustrated he wanted to smash his phone, but he thought better of it. Ava had bought him this new one, and he cherished it. It definitely wasn't because he was afraid of getting beaten up by her. Definitely not. Ugh, to think this guy was after me all along, Leo muttered, feeling helpless. Who had he pissed off? He hadn't provoked Sterling, had he? So why target him? He looked up and found several people staring at him. He hadn't been trying to be discreet, so his conversation with Sterling had been overheard by many, including Gideon and his crew. What are you looking at? You want a piece of me? Leo glared at Gideon, looking like a total thug. He was itching to blow off some steam. Gideon's mouth twitched. Are you a dog? Snapping at everyone you see. Leo, what's the secret between you and Sterling? The secret is between me and your dad. I'm your godfather. Now, this is not the time for jokes. I'm not joking. I really am your godfather. Gideon clenched his fists so hard his knuckles turned white. If Camille hadn't been holding him back, he would have charged Leo. He'd lose for sure, but he had to show some backbone. Leo was a little disappointed that Gideon didn't take the bait. After all, they'd just agreed not to start anything with each other, and Leo was a man of his word. Suddenly, Leo's brow arched, a mischievous look on his face. Gideon, I have good news and bad news. Which do you want to hear first? Leo, what kind of trick are you trying to pull now? Hey, just pick one. I promise you won't regret it. Gideon hesitated. Why the sudden, bizarre change in tone? Camille gently nudged his arm. He sighed and said flatly, the good news. The good news is, your base got raided. Leo beamed. And it wasn't me this time. Leland Vance's people did it. If you go now, you might catch them in the act. What? Gideon was stunned, then furious. How the hell is that good news? Is raiding bases the only move you people know? Why are you yelling at me? I didn't do it, Leo said, feigning injury. Then what's the bad news? Camille asked quickly. The bad news is, if you don't leave now, Leland Vance and Cyrus Lynn are about to show up and slaughter you all. Zara had just informed Leo that Leland and Cyrus had joined forces and were on their way. Hearing that, Gideon and the others couldn't stay put any longer. Whether Leo was telling the truth or not, they had to get back immediately. The base being raided was a secondary concern. The real problem was the asset they had there. If something happened to the asset, they were in deep trouble. Everyone pull out. Gideon shot Leo a death glare and ordered the battered remnants of the NYC coalition to retreat. Not that there were many of them left. After fighting Cyrus Lynn and then being cut down by Preston Sheen, Leo alone could probably take them all down. They were no longer a threat. Watching the NYC coalition retreat, Leo shook his head with a sigh. TSK, what a tragic sight. They were probably the biggest losers of the night. Everyone else was a protagonist, and the NYC coalition were just the NPC punching bags. Now, their base was being raided, and they were limping back with a handful of wounded soldiers to put out the fire. Leo almost felt bad for them. Sigh. Why did they have to declare neutrality? At the very least, they should have picked a side and teamed up with Leland. It would have been better than this. Leo stretched and sat down cross-legged on Preston Sheen's unconscious body. Ethan Sia walked over, lit a cigarette for himself, then offered one to Leo. Leo waved it away. Don't smoke. Ava didn't like the smell. He was on lollipops now, especially the imported kind. Well, back in high school, during that whole anti-smoking campaign, you were the first to volunteer, smoking like a chimney, Ethan teased. What happened? Did you find religion? Huh. You don't know shit, Leo said disdainfully. Ever had imported candy? Do you know what imported lollipop tastes like? You broke-ass chain smoker. Leo's taunt skill was still maxed out. It was practically his second self-developed ability, right after his vocal mimicry. Special skill, taunt. Ethan was a bit stunned by the insult. Me, the young master of the CF family, a broke-ass. He snorted, deciding not to stoop to Leo's level. If his father hadn't frozen his bank accounts, all of Leo's assets combined wouldn't even equal the pocket change in his account. Of course, that didn't include the $3 million. That was Ava's. It had nothing to do with Leo. The only significant sum of money Leo had to his name was the $300,000, which was still in Ethan's possession. Not that Ethan planned on keeping it. He looked down on such a small amount. Only a country bumpkin like Leo would treat $300,000 like a treasure. And so they remained, one standing and smoking, the other sitting and yawning, while the Croft family's men cleaned up the battlefield behind them. What's your plan for Sterling? Ethan asked. What else? Get some sleep? Deal with it tomorrow, Leo said nonchalantly. He said we have 3 days. What's the rush? TSK, you're just like you were in high school, always putting off your homework until the last possible minute. So what? I always got it done, didn't I? You think I don't know? You paid someone to do it for you, then had the gall to mock the kids who didn't finish their assignments when school started. Holy crap, how did you know about that? Guess what my part-time job was during summer break? Don't tell me you were the one I hired. I even wrote a few insults about the teacher in your notebook. I was a little disappointed he never saw them. Ethan, yeah, you son of... Let's just skip the next 10,000 words of Leo's cursing. All that could be said is, it's no wonder these two got along so well. Neither of them was a saint. Just then, the sound of approaching cars cut through the night. Leo and Ethan turned to look. TSK, took them long enough, Leo complained. The arrivals were none other than Leland Vance, Cyrus Lynn, and their men. The cars soon stopped a short distance away. As Leland and the others got out, their eyes immediately locked onto Preston Sheen, who was currently serving as Leo's seat. How is that possible? Cyrus Lynn's eyes were wide with shock. That terrifying, monster-like asset had actually been defeated? Leland's gaze was equally grave. Just as I thought. That bastard Leo has a way to deal with the assets. He then shouted, Leo, give us back Preston Sheen, and we'll leave immediately. With Spencer phone captured, Preston Sheen was the only asset Leland had left. He absolutely could not let Leo take him. Preston Sheen? Who's that? Leo asked, feigning ignorance. The person you're sitting on. Oh, so this big guy's name is Preston Sheen. Leo smiled. He's my war trophy. If I just give him back because you asked, I'd lose a lot of face, wouldn't I? What are your terms? Leland's face darkened. I suggest you don't get too greedy, or we won't mind having another go at you. TSK, why so aggressive? Leo chuckled. I can give him to you, but you have to do me a favor. What favor? You know about Sterling's method for destroying Viridian, right? Leo said slowly. I need your help to make sure his plan goes up in smoke. Leland's brow furrowed in thought. He didn't answer right away. Leo, are you trying to play the hero? Marcus Lynn sneered. You're quite the bleeding heart, aren't you? Leo merely lifted his gaze and glanced at Marcus. The next second, a black throwing knife materialized, streaking past Marcus's cheek and leaving a gruesome, bloody gash. Arg! Marcus clutched his face and screamed, glaring at Ethan Sia, who stood beside Leo. I'm talking to your leader. What gives you the right to interrupt? Leo said flatly. Marcus, you were out of the game back in Ethelberg. If you want to keep running your mouth in front of me, I don't mind sending you to go meet the Fongs. Hearing this, Marcus's eyes filled with rage. He turned to look at Cyrus Lynn, then at Leland Vance. Neither of them seemed willing to step in for him. Marcus bit down hard, slowly closing his mouth, his eyes filled with bitter resentment. That's right. Their statuses were different now. The past was the past. Back in Ethelberg, he was the powerful leader of the Lynn Syndicate, one of the city's three titans, a man who could contend with Julian Reed. Back then, Leo was just a student to him, and later, just a powerful enforcer for the Reed family. But now, their positions had been completely reversed. Marcus was Leland Vance's subordinate, and Leo had become the head of a major power in his own right. The only person present qualified to speak to Leo as an equal was Leland Vance. As for the current Marcus Lynn, Leo couldn't even be bothered to kill him. How do you want me to help? Leland finally spoke. Haven't decided yet. We still have 3 days, don't we? Leo chuckled. I imagine you don't want to be run out of Viridian by Sterling with your tail between your legs, either. Leland didn't speak, but Leo had hit the nail on the head. Sterling had raided his base and taken Jasper Kane, a massive slap in the face. And after fighting Sterling for so many years, Leo didn't believe for a second that Leland could swallow that insult. As expected, Leland said, You mean you want to team up with me to deal with Sterling? Leo nodded. More or less. I don't want to leave like a coward either. Phoenix, Leland said decisively. I accept this deal. Leo's face broke into a wide grin. He stood up, got off Preston Sheen, and gave him a casual kick. Thump. Preston Sheen's body slid across the ground, stopping in front of Cyrus Lynn. He's yours. We'll discuss the specific plan later. With that, Leo stretched, turned around, and walked away. It's late. Time for bed. Even if it's the end of the world tomorrow, you still gotta sleep, right? Leland watched Leo's retreating back, then glanced at the unconscious Preston Sheen on the ground. Get him, he said flatly. We're leaving. On the outskirts of Viridian City, the NYC Coalition's main camp was a bloodbath. Bodies were strewn everywhere, a mix of Leland Vance's men and their own. A common thread connected them, similar fatal wounds, none of which were from guns. By the time Gideon and the others returned, the place was dead silent. Not a single living soul remained. Damn it. Seeing the carnage, a deep sense of dread washed over Gideon. Go check. See if the asset is still here. At his command, a few men broke off and ran toward the containment area. Minutes later, they returned, their faces grim. The asset is gone. Hearing this, Gideon's fists clenched. He'd braced himself for it, but the reality was still hard to swallow. The bodies littering the ground were likely the asset's handiwork. That bastard Leland. Gideon cursed. The asset is gone. Catching it again will be impossible. And with Sterling making trouble on top of all this, God damn it. Gideon felt an overwhelming sense of frustration. How had they fallen so far in just 2 days? A short while ago, they were a force to be reckoned with, feared by all the other factions. Now, they were nothing but a handful of defeated soldiers, unable to make a single ripple. And their only ace, the asset, had escaped. Gideon genuinely felt like crying. Let's go back, Camille said with a sigh, stepping forward. As things stand, we no longer have a place in Viridian's power games. Sterling, Leo, and Leland have formed a 3-way standoff. We can't even compete with a single one of them now. The best course of action is to return to New York and regroup. Saul frowned. Go back. In this state? How were they supposed to face their families back in NYC? They had formed a grand 3-family coalition, only to suffer such a humiliating defeat in Viridian and lose their asset. Saul was too ashamed to go back. Gideon heard Camille's words and looked around at the exhausted faces of his men. An immense feeling of failure filled him. After a long moment, he sighed. Fine. Let's go back. Although Sterling had men blocking the roads, they had the strength to force their way out of Viridian if they had to. Saul sighed as well, but said nothing. They were out of the game. It was deep in the night, but few people in Viridian could sleep. Sterling's broadcast had plunged the city into a state of panic. Damn it, who is this Sterling guy? Saying he's going to destroy Viridian? This is terrorism, isn't it? Isn't anyone going to do something? Can anyone get a ticket out of Viridian? It's showing they're all sold out. Why run? I don't believe one man can kill all of us. Exactly. Let the big shots handle it. It won't affect us little guys. Meanwhile, in a dilapidated little house somewhere in Viridian, a plainly dressed little girl looked worriedly at the woman on the bed. Mommy, it's so noisy outside. A lot of people are saying we're going to die. Tears welled up in Hope's eyes. Her voice trembled. Mommy, is Hope going to die? The woman on the bed was pale, but she managed a weak smile. She reached out, stroked Hope's face, and wiped away her tears. Don't worry, Hope. We're going to live. The world is full of good people, the woman said gently. If there's real danger, a great hero will come and save us. A great hero? Yes, a great hero who can make everyone feel safe. Hope blinked and turned her head. In the corner stood a rusty iron stove. On top of it was a bamboo skewer, one that had once held a candied apple. An image of Leo surfaced in her mind. Was that big brother, the one who made her feel so safe, a great hero? So noisy? Have some decency. It's the middle of the night. Are you trying to keep people from sleeping? Leo stood at his window, shouting at the clamoring crowd below. The guy said you have 3 days. What's the damn rush? You keep making noise, and I'll make sure you get iced right now. His words had an immediate effect. The commotion outside died down significantly. The residents knew that the people who lived here were not to be trifled with. Satisfied, Leo closed the window and was about to go to sleep when there was a knock on his door. He opened it, puzzled. Ava stood there in a white nightgown, glaring at him. Leo immediately sensed trouble. If Ava came to his door happy, it might mean she wanted to sleep with him. But that furious expression could not possibly be a good sign. As expected, the next second, Ava stomped on his foot. Leo, are you trying to get yourself killed? Don't you know I'm right next door? I finally fell asleep, and then your shouting woke me right back up. What? You thought my sleep wasn't good enough, so you wanted me to get up and try again. Ava seethed, the pressure on his foot increasing. An accident. Purely an accident, Leo said, hastily pulling his foot back. I'll be more careful next time, he whispered. Humph. Ava shot him a glare, then turned and went back to her room. With Julia Reed around, there was no way she was sleeping in the same room as Leo. A few dozen minutes earlier, Kalen Croft had tried to organize a strategy meeting about Sterling. But Leo had simply waved him off. You guys can strategize. I'm going to bed. Ethan and the others followed suit, leaving Kalen standing there, dumbfounded. Are you people this relaxed? We have less than 3 days, and instead of racing against the clock, you're all going to sleep? Kalen didn't understand that the younger generation was different. For Leo and his friends, even if the world was ending tomorrow, they weren't going to miss out on their sleep. In fact, back when Leo was in high school cramming for exams, he used to pray for the apocalypse. And the world could end, but only on a school or work day, never on a weekend. Leo scratched his head, closed the door, and dived onto his bed. Though it felt strange without Ava, he was a grown man. He could sleep by himself. And so, while Leo and his crew slept, Kalen Croft was busy researching countermeasures. Julia Reed, however, was sipping red wine and putting on a face mask, and making a phone call. The next morning, Leo stretched and walked out of his room. He sniffed the air, which still carried the faint smell of smoke, and frowned. Morning, son-in-law. Julia Reed greeted him with a smile, then peeked curiously into the room behind him. Is Ava still asleep? Ma'am, Ava's in the room next door. What? You two still aren't sleeping together. Julia looked at Leo with a shocked, strange expression, her eyes scanning him up and down. Could it be that Leo had some issues in that department? How could he resist a beauty like Ava? Leo's face darkened. He was speechless. Ma'am, we have a respectable relationship. Your uncle and I have a respectable marriage, Julia said dismissively. Leo, our family is very open-minded, so you don't have to be so restrained, you know? I'm waiting to play with. I'm waiting to hold my grandchild. Just then, a pillow came flying through the air. Julia instantly went on alert. An assassin. She agilely dodged the pillow and looked up to see Ava, her face flushed with shame and anger. Mom, what kind of nonsense are you spouting? Julia, however, was completely unabashed. What's there to be shy about? I was pregnant with your brother before I even graduated from college. That was you. Ava fumed. What's that supposed to mean? You're my daughter. Of course you have to surpass me. Leo took a few steps back, ready to enjoy the show, but there was no way the mother-daughter duo would let him off the hook. Son-in-law, don't you think I'm right? You young people should be more open-minded, not bound by all those old rules, Julia said, turning to Leo. Leo, you better think carefully before you answer. Ava shot him a look. Leo's mouth twitched. You should have just slipped away earlier. Ahem. Well, I think both of your perspectives have a certain validity. We should approach this issue dialectically. Leo started rambling, carefully avoiding the main point. Seeing Ava's dissatisfied expression, about to speak, Leo had a flash of inspiration and quickly pulled out his phone. Hello? Oh, hey, Ethan. What's that? Silas made me breakfast burritos? What? They're getting cold? That won't do. I'm on my way. As he spoke, Leo beat a hasty retreat from the battlefield. The moment he hung up, he had vanished from Ava and Julia's sight. Ava stared in the direction he'd fled, grinding her teeth. Leo, you big pig. You just wait. I'm throwing out all my stockings when we get back. Ava, honey, listen to your mother. Getting married early isn't a bad thing. You're just bored and looking for some entertainment. Don't think I don't know. You and Dad are two peas in a pod. What a thing to say, Julia said, annoyed. Why can't you younger ones ever consider us older folks? You're still young. You'll have plenty of time to enjoy life later. We're different. If we don't enjoy life now, we'll be too old. Ava silently rolled her eyes. She was so tired. Why were her parents like this? Julia and Anthony were on Leo's side, and even her own brother, Julian, had abandoned her. Was she just a little lost girl? Ava snorted, deciding to ignore Julia, and turned to leave. Hey, Ava, don't go. Let's talk about it some more. Talk about what? Kalen Croft suddenly appeared at their side, sporting two dark circles under his eyes, radiating resentment. You scared me, old man. What's with you? Didn't sleep well last night? Julia asked, looking at a haggard Kalen. Take out the well. I didn't sleep at all last night. Kalen snapped. Last night, every single one of them had ditched him, leaving him to toss and turn, his mind consumed with how to deal with Sterling. So, did you come up with a plan? Julia asked, amused. No. Huh. Then you might as well have slept. Julia left him with that parting shot and walked away. Kalen's fist clenched. Dealing with this bunch required an immense amount of tolerance. Other people's friends provided emotional support. This crew, they provided plenty of emotion, but zero support. What did I do in a past life to deserve this family? Kalen sighed, shaking his head. 2.5 hours later, in the Croft family meeting room. Having finished breakfast, the group had been summoned by a very insistent Kalen Croft. He stood at the head of the table, his sharp gaze sweeping over them. Julia and Ava were still giving each other the silent treatment. Leo and Ethan Sia were flipping each other off. Kane was wondering when he could steal his sniper rifle back. Zara was still brooding over her earlier failure. The others were similarly distracted, causing Kalen's eye to twitch uncontrollably. Slam! Kalen slammed his hand on the table, startling everyone. All of you focus. We're discussing serious business. The day after tomorrow is when Sterling plans to destroy Viridian, and you have the nerve to think about other things? Can you people be reliable for once? Hearing this, Leo smacked his lips, unconcerned. What's the rush? That's a problem for the day after tomorrow. We'll deal with it then. Ethan looked at him with contempt. You're really going to wait until the last day, aren't you? Can't you do something about that procrastination? Then what do you suggest? The day after tomorrow is too late. We won't have time to implement any plan, Ethan said flatly. I say, tomorrow night is about right. That gives us more room for error. Leo gave him a thumbs up. You always think of everything. He then added, then it's happily decided. We'll think of a plan tomorrow night. Leo and Ethan both stood up in perfect sync, ready to adjourn the meeting. Slam. Kalen slammed the table again, stopping them in their tracks. Are you two messing with me? He growled through gritted teeth. My patience has its limits. Do not test me again. Leo and Ethan blinked, then obediently sat back down. The old man must be going through menopause. Better not to provoke him. Kalen took a deep breath. Now, the meeting will begin. The atmosphere in the Croft family meeting room was heavy. Kalen Croft took a deep breath. To stop Sterling, we first need to know what method he's going to use to destroy Viridian. Isn't it obvious? It's got to be Jasper Kane's explosives, Kane said. No, it must be something else, Julia Reed countered slowly. If it were just explosives, the Umbra wouldn't have been unable to find a single clue after all this time. Besides, how many explosives would it take to destroy the entire city? So you're saying the explosives are just a decoy, and he has another way to take everyone down with him? Ava frowned, deep in thought. The room fell silent. They couldn't guess what the method could be, and without knowing, they couldn't counter Sterling at the source. Leo scanned the room and blinked. I have to ask, why make it so complicated? Why don't we just call and ask? With that, Leo pulled out his phone and dialed the number. Everyone stared, dumbfounded. Make a call? Who would you even ask? A moment later, Leo provided the answer. Hey, Leland? It's Leo. The corners of everyone's mouths twitched. You're calling Leland Vance? Do you really think he's going to tell you? Got a question for you. What's Jasper Kane's mutual destruction method? Leo, do you really think I'm going to tell you? Don't be difficult. We're allies now. Information sharing is part of the deal. Weren't you the one who said you'd die before you'd ever ally with me? That was then, this is now. Stop wasting time and just tell me, Leo said impatiently. Jasper Kane has been captured. Your ace in the hole has been taken. What are you still posturing for? Hurry up and explain so we can figure out how to deal with Sterling. On the other end of the line, Leland Vance's face was livid. Sooner or later, he was going to rip that mouth of Leo's right off his face. It was so damn annoying. He took a deep breath and said slowly, An artificial earthquake. What was that? Speak up. I said artificial earthquake. As in a man-made earthquake. You got it? Leland roared. Why are you yelling? Leo roared back. Leland gritted his teeth, his fists clenched tight. Weren't you the one who told me to speak up? With strained patience, Leland explained the entire artificial earthquake situation to Leo. So, the activator is in Sterling's hands, and only your and Jasper Kane's fingerprints can activate the device, right? That's correct. Can Sterling add his own fingerprint? No, only mine and Jasper's will work. No others can be added. TSK, you're really something else, Leland. Such strict conditions, and you still let Sterling get the better of you. Leo continued, his taunt skill at maximum. If I were you, I'd be too ashamed to even talk about this. You lost the man and the device in one fell swoop. If you had just kept Jasper Kane with you, none of this would have happened. Leland's face was terrifyingly dark. Why do you think I didn't dare bring Jasper Kane out, Leo? Aren't you fully aware of the reason? You almost killed him last time. You think I'm stupid enough to bring him to see you again? In the meeting room, everyone else was silent, their ears perked, listening to the conversation. According to you, there are 4 earthquake devices, and one is right under the main cartel's headquarters. Leo paused, then added, so why don't we just dismantle all 4 devices? You make it sound so simple, Leland said grimly. Those 4 devices can only be dismantled with a technical code known only by the person who built them. If you try to forcibly dismantle one, the other 3 will activate immediately. There'd be no time to stop it. Leo frowned. What kind of half-assed design is that? What idiot came up with it? Don't tell me it was you, Leo said, raising an eyebrow as if he'd discovered something interesting. In any case, that's all I can tell you, Leland said flatly. If you don't come up with a satisfactory plan by tomorrow, our cooperation is terminated. I will leave Viridian immediately with my men. With that, Leland hung up. Leo, who had been about to launch another volley of insults, scowled at the dial tone. TSK, always hanging up. So rude. He then looked at the others. Well, that's the situation. The specifics of the situation will depend on the actual situation. Everyone's mouths twitched. That was the most useless sentence they had ever heard. Kalen Croft ignored him. Which means we can't touch the earthquake devices. The only point of entry is Jasper Kane. Sterling needs Jasper's fingerprint to activate the device. That means if Jasper's fingerprint is gone, Sterling is powerless. Ethan nodded. Got it. In other words, our target is Jasper Kane's hands, right? Within 3 days, by any means necessary, we just have to destroy Jasper Kane's fingerprints. Leo raised an eyebrow. Destroying his fingerprints sounds like a hassle. I think destroying the whole person would be simpler. Ethan nodded again. That works too. Just skips a few steps. And if that fails, we can just solve the problem at its source and kill Sterling, Leo added. Jasper Kane seems like an easier target than Sterling, but that's not a bad backup plan, Ethan agreed. And just like that, the 2 of them decided on a plan. Kill Jasper Kane first. If that doesn't work, kill Sterling. Meeting adjourned. Leo and Ethan stood up again, ready to leave. Get back here. Kalen Croft roared. Do you think this is a game? You can't just say kill him and be done with it. Don't you need to make a plan? Leo and Ethan both covered their ears and looked at Kalen with annoyance. Why are you yelling? Can't you talk things out calmly? Reluctantly, they returned to their seats to discuss the finer details of the operation, including brainstorming contingency plans for every possible scenario to maximize their chances of success. But Deep down, they all knew that plans rarely survive contact with reality, especially when Leo was involved. So, the plan they ultimately concocted deliberately excluded Leo as an unpredictable variable, all in the name of stability. Evening, at the Viridian City Central Station. The terminal was packed with a countless, clamoring mob. Shouts and curses filled the air. "Why won't you let us in? We need to leave Viridian. Let me through, please. I'm begging you. I'm still young. I don't want to die. Let me in. Who are you people? What's your goal? Why are you guarding this place? Let's fight them. For our freedom." Facing them stood a line of men in black, members of the new century. They remained impassive in the face of the crowd's fury. But the guns in their hands were a constant deterrent, keeping anyone from crossing the line. No one wanted to be the first to get shot, so they stuck to shouting, not daring to make a move. Just then, from a side exit, a figure appeared, pulling a suitcase. Many eyes turned to him, sizing him up. At a time like this, when they couldn't even get out, someone was actually daring to come into Viridian? And the man was quite handsome. What a shame. It was Julian Reed. He pulled his suitcase to the main gate and exhaled a white puff of air. So cold. Julian rubbed his hands together and tightened the scarf around his neck, a look of helplessness on his face. "Sigh, my vacation barely started, and I get called to a hellhole like this. Viridian, what a mess. Looks like I won't be getting a cab here." Julian glanced at the chaotic crowd, his eyes sharp, then picked up his suitcase and started to walk away. He hadn't gone far, however, before he stopped. A man stood in his path, blocking his way. "Hello," Adrian said, a warm smile on his face. "I'm Adrian, from a new century. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Julian Reed." Julian looked up, his expression calm. "Sterling sent you?" Adrian nodded. "Our leader knew you were coming and sent me specifically to pass on a message." "What message?" "He hopes you won't get involved in this game." "Oh." Julian raised an eyebrow, his interest piqued. "Why? Is he that afraid of me?" "No, he has no reason to be, which means my arrival might disrupt some of his arrangements. Or is your leader hiding some secret he's afraid I'll uncover?" Hearing this, Adrian's easy smile vanished, replaced by a grave expression. No wonder Sterling took Julian Reed so seriously, even sending him personally. With just a single sentence, the man had deduced so much. Adrian instantly shed any underestimation he had of him. Noticing Julian was still studying him, Adrian forced a laugh. "Mr. Reed, you can save your energy. Even I don't know all of our leader's plans. You won't get any useful information from me." "No." Julian shook his head and chuckled. "Your presence here is the most useful piece of information Sterling could have given me." Adrian frowned. "What did that mean?" Julian continued, as if to himself. "Since you were waiting for me here, it means Sterling must have known my purpose for coming. Even so, he sent you to persuade me to go back. That's interesting. He knows I would never turn back. So why go through the trouble of having you deliver this message?" Even in the winter air, Adrian could feel sweat beating on his back. He now understood that intelligence had levels, and the intellect of men like Sterling and Julian Reed was far beyond his own. Julian's eyes glinted as he mentally reviewed everything he knew about Sterling. A theory began to form. He suddenly looked up at Adrian and smiled. "Go back and tell Sterling that I think I understand his meaning. I'll decide whether or not to cooperate based on the situation. That's all." With that, Julian picked up his suitcase and walked past Adrian. Adrian stood frozen, his mind a complete blank. What has happened? What did Julian understand? The leader just told me to pass on a message. Was there some other hidden meaning? He turned, watching Julian's departing figure, his face a mask of confusion. He then took out his phone and dialed Sterling. "Hello, leader? Did you see Julian Reed?" "Yes. I've just relayed your message to him." "What did he say?" He said, he thinks he understands your meaning and will decide whether to cooperate based on the situation." A long silence followed on the other end of the line. Adrian waited quietly, not daring to rush him. After a long moment, Sterling let out a soft laugh. "Looks like the little guy has studied me quite a bit. The Reed family. They've really produced someone extraordinary." Adrian blinked, not understanding what Sterling meant. As smart as he considered himself, in front of these two, he couldn't comprehend a single word. Yet the two of them seemed to have a natural chemistry, able to understand each other's intentions from the smallest of gestures. "All right, Adrian, come back. We have some preparations of our own to make." "Yes, leader." In the principal's office at Viridia High, Sterling hung up the phone and turned to Principal Chapman. "That Julian Reed is really something," Sterling said with a smile. "I was worried about what would happen to you, but now it seems with him around, you probably won't die." Principal Chapman sat in his chair, his face expressionless. "It doesn't matter to me. I made my peace with life and death a long time ago. Don't say that. If you died, what would all the students at Viridian High do? Sterling said cheerfully. Without you, Principal Chapman, this school would have been torn down long ago. Chapman sipped his tea, saying nothing. After a long pause, Sterling's smile faded. His expression turned serious. Old chap, I've arranged everything. I'm counting on you for the rest. Chapman nodded and looked at Sterling with a sigh. You really know how to make a mess. Don't forget, your body is only just recovered. It's fine. It's not like I could die anyway, Sterling said dismissively. He yawned and waved. I'm off, going back to sleep. Chapman watched Sterling's retreating figure and shook his head with a wry smile. He stood up, closed the office door, and began to wander the empty halls of Viridian High alone. He looked at the familiar bricks and tiles on the walls, a touch of reluctance in his eyes. After the new year, school would start again. He hoped he would still be there to see the kids. On the street, a taxi drove along the deserted road. Julian Reed leaned back in his seat and let out a soft breath. It had taken him nearly half an hour of walking to find his cab. You're lucky, kid. Around here right now, you can count the number of cabbies still working on one hand, the driver said with a sigh. Everyone's in a panic. It's chaos everywhere. Julian smiled and asked, Aren't you afraid? Still out here driving your cab? What good would being afraid do? Can't get out anyway. Might as well stay and spend New Year's Eve with my family, the driver said with a carefree laugh. Things will work themselves out. Besides, what's the worst that could happen? Hey kid, you look like you just came from the train station. I did. Just got to Viridian. Then you've got some rotten luck coming here at a time like this. Julian gave a wry smile. Perhaps. If it hadn't been for that call from Julia Reed, he really wouldn't have waded into this mess. But he had no choice. When his own mother said what she did, he had to come. Julian Reed, if you don't come, you better not ever come home again, or I swear I'll make you regret it. That's what Julia had said. The words had given Julian an instant headache, and he'd bought a ticket to Viridian that very night. Before long, the taxi arrived at the Croft family compound. The driver even got out to help Julian with his luggage. Thanks, Julian said, taking the suitcase. No problem. The driver waved and was about to get back in his car when Julian called out to him. Wait a moment. The driver paused, turning back with a questioning look. Julian pulled his scarf up a little higher. Enjoy New Year's Eve with your family. Don't worry. Viridian will still be here. The driver blinked, then grinned. All right, I hope so. As the taxi drove off, Julian took a deep breath and walked toward the gate with his suitcase. The Croft family guards had already noticed him. Seeing him approach, one of them called out, Stop. Who are you? What's your business with the Croft family? Julian obediently stopped. Could you please inform your family head that Julian Reed is here? Julian Reed? The guard frowned. Never heard the name before. Just some no-name. But he was just a guard. To be safe, he called Kalen Croft. Hello, Master Croft. There's someone at the gate who says he knows you. Someone else? What do they think this place is? Kalen roared. Why was someone showing up every other day? His home used to be so quiet. Who is it? He says his name is Julian Reed. You. Kalen's words died in his throat. Why is it another goddamn Reed? Is there no end to them? In the meeting room, Kalen shot a glare at Julia Reed, his teeth gritted. You called him here? Oh, he's here. Julia looked slightly surprised. He got here pretty fast. Kalen let out a deep sigh. Let him in. Bring him to the meeting room. Yes, master. After hanging up, Kalen sat in his chair, massaging his temples. This was giving him a massive headache. Still, with Julian Reed here, perhaps their plan would go a little more smoothly. Mr. Reed, this way, please. Thank you. Following the butler's lead, Julian was heading to the meeting room when someone approached from the opposite direction. It was Corbin Croft, Butler's son, who's visiting. Corbin stopped short. He recognized Julian instantly. What are you doing in my house? He asked nervously. Julian stopped and smiled. Corbin, it's been a while. A few years, right? I have absolutely no desire to see you, Corbin said, looking at Julian with wary eyes. Because of the relationship between their fathers, Corbin had known Julian since they were kids. To put it mildly, he had been completely overshadowed by Julian his entire childhood, to the point where he had developed a complex. Oh, Julian raised an eyebrow, his tone shifting slightly. A few years apart, and you dare speak to me like that now. Hearing the change in Julian's voice, Corbin immediately realized his mistake and swallowed hard. He forced a grin. A slip of the tongue. Purely a slip of the tongue. Big bro Julian, actually, I miss you a lot. I've been meaning to ask you out for a drink. Julian gave him a long, deep look. All right, later tonight, I'll find you for that drink. Hearing this, Corbin shuddered, his smile looking more painful than a grimace. Okay, big bro Julian, you go handle your business. I'll be waiting for your summons. Butler's son watched the exchange, secretly amazed. He knew his young master's temper well. Who was this person who could make him so terrified? This was no ordinary man. The butler's tone became even more respectful. Mr. Reed, please follow me. Julian nodded, then tossed his suitcase to Corbin without looking back. Watch this for me. I'll come get it from you later. And don't even think about running. There's something important inside. If it goes missing, it's all on you. Corbin's mouth twitched. Julian had read him like a book. He had been planning to make a run for it and lie low for a while. But now, staring at the suitcase, he sighed. Fina, he just have to behave. Julian followed Butler's son a short way until they arrived at a room. Mr. Reed, we're here. Thank you. Julian reached out and gently pushed open the door to the meeting room. Instantly, several pairs of eyes turned toward him. So, Julia Reed stood up joyfully, her arms open wide as she rushed toward Julian. Julian sidestepped her with a deft movement, avoiding the hug. Julian Reed, how dare you dodge me? Julia, having hugged nothing but air, was not pleased. You don't love your mother anymore, do you? No, I'm just a little dirty from the trip. I was afraid of getting you dirty, Julian said, his face impassive. Anyone could tell it was a weak excuse, but Julia smiled anyway. I knew it. My son cares about me the most. Everyone's mouths twitched, unsure of what to say. Brother, what are you doing here? Ava asked, surprised. Weren't you on vacation? Seeing Ava, Julian's expression softened into a warm smile. I was worried about you, so I came to check. Hearing that, Leo let out a tisk. Total sister complex. Ava, however, wasn't buying it. Worried about me? Then why didn't you answer my calls? Did you block me? Of course not. I just happened to be in an area with no signal for a few days. I don't believe you. I brought you a present, Julian said with a smile. A local specialty from a faraway place. At the mention of a gift, Ava's anger subsided considerably. Well, where is it? It's in my suitcase. Corbin has it. I'll get it for you in a bit. Fina, I'll forgive you for now. Julian nodded, then turned to face Kalen Croft. Uncle Kalen, it's been a long time. Kalen snorted but didn't reply. Like his son, he didn't like Julian either. He'd always thought the boy was full of schemes. Kalen Croft, what kind of attitude is that? My son is talking to you. Julia was not pleased. Kalen's eye twitched. This is my house. Can you people show me a little respect? It's fine. Let's focus on the matter at hand, Julian said, unbothered. He sat down and greeted Ethan, Sia, and Kane, who responded in a friendly manner. As for Leo, Julian felt a bit helpless. Leo was glaring daggers at him, mouthing a few words. You, just, wait. Leo still hadn't forgotten being played by Julian and Director Jensen, and the matter of the $3 million. If Julian didn't offer a good explanation, Leo was definitely not letting it go. This was going to be a problem, Julian thought. He'd have to find a way to smooth things over later. Subsequently, Julia filled Julian in on all the information they had gathered. An earthquake device. Julian's eyes flickered. He suddenly asked, have any of you considered just destroying the activator? Everyone paused. The plans they had discussed all centered on killing either Jasper Kane or Sterling. They had completely overlooked the activator itself. Seeing their expressions, Julian sighed with resignation. These people, their methods were so crude. But destroying the activator won't be easy. Sterling would have hidden it somewhere we can't find. Isn't it obvious? Julian smiled. Wherever Jasper Kane is, the activator will be there too. So, we don't need to go through the trouble of killing Jasper or Sterling. We just need to destroy that device. Leo thought for a moment. That could work. The key issue now is how to find Sterling and his people. We can leave that to Leland Vance, Julian said. Since this is a partnership, we need a division of labor. Let them track Sterling's location. What if they don't put in the effort and can't find him? Don't worry, they'll find him. Why? Sterling's target is you, Leo. He won't stay hidden forever. He will intentionally leave clues for you to find him, Julian explained, then paused. At the same time, everyone knows how important Jasper Kane is, so Sterling will never reveal his location. Therefore, our only chance is when you confront Sterling. You need to try and get clues from him, buy us time, so we can find Jasper. Leo considered this. If you guys can't find Jasper by then, I can just kill Sterling. No. Julian shook his head. You can't kill Sterling. Why not? No reason, Julian said seriously. Leo, trust me. I wouldn't harm you. Leo's mouth twitched. Trust you? After all the times you've screwed me over? But he still sighed and gave a slight nod. I'll try not to kill him. Ava blinked, looking at her brother with a puzzled expression. She had a feeling something was off about him, but she couldn't put her finger on it. It was a subtle, strange feeling. She shook her head. It was probably just her imagination. Kaylin Croft scanned the room. Then it settled. We'll have Leland find Sterling's location first. We'll adapt to any problems as they arise. With that, Leo called Leland Vance and informed him of the plan. Leland naturally agreed, as he was already searching for Sterling himself. After the call, Leo was the first to stand up. All right, meeting adjourned. It's dinner time. Let's eat. The others rose as well. They were all starving. Meanwhile, at the main cartel headquarters, Nighthawk watched Leland Vance hang up the phone. You're really cooperating with that guy, Leo? In this world, there are no permanent enemies, Leland said with a smile. As long as interests align, anything is possible. By the way, how's Jasper Kane's son? Sterling didn't harm Quentin Kane. We have him locked in a room right now, Nighthawk reported, then asked, confused, are you planning to use him to threaten Jasper? It's worth a try. Jasper only has one son, Leland said, his eyes cold. I refuse to believe he can watch his own son be killed. Nighthawk's expression remained unchanged. He was used to such things. Just got word. Gideon and his men have retreated from the west. The new century didn't stop them. They should be back in New York by now. Leland frowned. Any leads on that asset from the suburbs? None. Viridian is a big place. If the asset doesn't make a move, it'll be very difficult to find. What a pain. If I had known Gideon was hiding an asset out there, I never would have sent my men, Leland grumbled, then waved a hand. Forget about that asset for now. The most important thing is to find Sterling's whereabouts. Also be prepared. If things go south, we pull out. Nighthawk's eyes glinted. In that case, should we take the opportunity to cause some trouble for Leo and his crew? Leland was tempted, but he quickly shook his head. Let's not. A clean getaway is good enough. No need to provoke Leo. If we piss him off, who knows what he'll do? He was genuinely starting to fear Leo now. Cheers. Around the dining table in the Croft compound, everyone raised their glasses. The atmosphere was convivial. Everyone except Kaylin Croft. The massive table was almost entirely occupied by the Reed family. It made him feel a bit desolate. At least he had Corbin and Raina with him, so he didn't seem completely alone. Brother, where's the present you said you brought me? Ava suddenly demanded. Julian turned to Corbin. The suitcase. Big bro Julian, I'll go get it for you right now. Corbin immediately stood up and ran to fetch Julian's luggage. Kaylin watched this and sighed, covering his face. What a spineless child. This is our house. Can't you show a little backbone? You're a year older than Julian, and you're calling him big bro? Kaylin resolved that this couldn't continue. Raina was one thing, but Corbin needed to be toughened up. If this went on, how could he ever entrust the family to him? Corbin, however, was oblivious to his father's thoughts. He happily brought Julian's suitcase over. Here you go, big bro. Thanks. Julian took the suitcase and opened it in front of everyone. They all craned their necks to see inside. A black case sat nestled within. What's that? Ava asked curiously. Julian smiled slowly and took out the black case. I got this from an old friend of mine some time ago. As he spoke, he opened the case, and all eyes were drawn to its contents. Inside, 2 pistols rested on a bed of velvet. One was crimson, the other pure white. Manjashaka. My friend is a gunsmith. This was his final work before he retired. Manjashaka. The red gun symbolizes death and rebirth. The white gun symbolizes purity and sanctity. Julian smiled, looking from Ava to Leo with a meaningful expression. Both of these guns, whether in terms of material or feel, are of the absolute highest quality. Ava blinked. But wouldn't it be a waste for me to use this? Her marksmanship was probably only slightly better than Dylan Miller's. You don't have to use it. Isn't Leo here? Julian looked at Leo and smiled. The value of these 2 guns far exceeds $3 million. Leo's mouth twitched. He knew it. This guy Julian was up to no good. You never actually prepared a gift for Ava, did you? Leo saw right through it. Julian planned to use these 2 guns to earn both Ava's and his own forgiveness at the same time. Brother, what is this? Ava put her hands on her hips, dissatisfied. Who gives a girl something like this? Exactly. And what about me? Julia chimed in, equally unhappy. Why don't I get a gift? Julian looked helpless. You call me. I rush over here without a moment's rest. Or would I have time to buy you gifts? He'd been planning to keep the Manjashaka pistols for his own collection, and was already forced to give them up. What more did they want? How about you hold on to this for now, and I'll owe you a proper gift. Julian said softly to Ava. He conveniently ignored Julia. She was a grown woman. What did she need a gift for? You better get me something I like next time. Ava huffed, but she had agreed. With lightning speed, Leo snatched the Manjashaka pistols. Julian Reed, you're unbelievable. You're ignoring me. Julia pointed at Julian indignantly. No gift, and you won't even talk to me. You have no heart. Julian looked up and gave her a flat stare. If you can tell me my birth date right now, I'll do whatever you say from now on. Julia was speechless, falling silent. After a long moment, she laughed awkwardly. Ha ha, I'm a grown woman. What do I need a gift for? Son, just pretend I was joking. Julian snorted softly and said nothing. Meanwhile, Leo picked up the Manjashaka pistols. The moment they were in his hands, he knew they were extraordinary. He didn't know if they were worth $3 million, but they were definitely priceless. Ethan Sia, sitting beside him, looked at the red and white guns. Manjashaka, he murmured. Why does that name sound familiar? Or have I heard it before? I can't quite place it. Julian overheard him. North Point, he said softly. Silas, the Mute Master. The Mute Master. Are you talking about that legendary master gunsmith? Ethan exclaimed in shock. I heard that every gun he ever made is worth at least $100,000. Then it clicked. According to what Julian said, the two pistols in Leo's hands are the Mute Master's final work. They were priceless treasures. It's not that exaggerated, Julian said with a light laugh. But this Manjashaka set is indeed worth a fortune. It took a great deal of effort for me to get it from him. Everyone's perception of Julian was refreshed once again, to give away such valuable guns just like that. And the purpose was simply to earn his sister's forgiveness. This was a total sister complex. How do you know the Mute Master? Kalen Croft asked, frowning. As far as I know, that man almost never leaves North Point. Well, Julian gave a mysterious smile. A fortunate coincidence. He owed me a favor. Since Julian was unwilling to elaborate, no one pressed further. They all turned their gazes to the Manjashaka pistols in Leo's hands. Leo, how about you sell those guns to me? Ethan asked hopefully. My marksmanship is actually pretty decent. Go play with your little throwing knives. Leo retorted, then clutched the guns protectively. This was a gift from my most respected big bro Julian. No one is getting their hands on them. Julian let out a faintly sarcastic laugh. You sure changed your tune quickly, kid. Weren't you just vowing to get even with me? Now I'm big bro. Leo put the Manjashaka pistols away safely, then pulled his old pistol from his waistband and tossed it to Kane. Old Kane, you can inherit this gun of mine. Kane caught it with a look of disdain. Who wants this piece of junk? Marco, you take it. He tossed the gun to Marco. Marco caught it, stunned for a moment. Then his face lit up with excitement. This was a gun used by Mr. Leo himself. He had to take good care of it. When Mr. Leo became a legend, this would be a priceless collector's item. After dinner, everyone went back to their rooms to rest. Julian Reed was organizing his luggage when, just as he turned off the lights to go to sleep, his phone rang. He frowned slightly. Picking it up, he saw an unfamiliar number. Hello, who is this? It's me, Sterling. Julian's eyebrows shot up. He walked slowly to the window and spoke softly. I didn't expect you to contact me so soon. It's hard to ignore your presence, Sterling said. You know my plan, don't you? I've guessed most of it. I don't believe you. Tell me what you think. Julian chuckled. At this point, your goal is already halfway achieved, isn't it? The NYC coalition has pulled back. Leland Vance is waiting on the sidelines. Nearly every major power in Viridian City has withdrawn under your threats. The chaos that has plagued Viridian for so long was a result of their rule. By driving them out, order will gradually be restored. Sterling, you do want to destroy Viridian. That much is true. But what you want to destroy is the old Viridian, the lawless city ruled by syndicates, where the people had no rights. Am I wrong? On the other end of the line, Sterling was silent. After a long moment, he said, keep talking. Julian did. But this method is only a temporary fix. So, you set your sights on Leo Evans. With Viridian suddenly losing its rulers, there's bound to be a period of panic. To restore order quickly, you need someone to lead them. And that person must be a leader they trust, someone they are willing to follow. Sterling, every step of your plan right now is designed to forge Leo Evans into the savior of Viridian City, isn't it? Though phrased as a question, Julian's tone was unshakably firm. He trusted his judgment. Even if Sterling denied it, he would still believe he was right. A long time passed before Sterling's voice came through again. How did you figure all this out? Julian answered quietly. Because I've studied you. No matter how much you intentionally change, you still fall back on old habits. So when you sent Adrian to deliver your message, I already sensed something was off. You know my relationship with Leo, and you know my sister is here. There was no way I would leave Viridian. But you still sent someone to persuade me to go. When I thought it through, there was only one possibility. He paused. That neither Viridian nor my sister and her friends would be in any real danger. Only then would you have a reason to ask me to leave. Hearing this, Sterling gave a wry shake of his head on the other end. He never imagined that from a single, small arrangement, Julian Reed would be able to deduce the broad strokes of his entire scheme. Julian Reed, you truly are a major threat. Thank you for the compliment. You are, to date, the only person who has seen through my plan, Sterling said with a laugh. Even the people working under me don't know my true objective. After a moment, he added, So, what are you going to do? Tell Leo and the others. Julian shook his head. There's no need. Why not? Because your plan won't succeed, Julian said with a slight smile. If your target were anyone else, it might have worked. But unfortunately, the person you chose is Leo Evans. You're attempting to control an unstable element like him. The outcome won't be what you desire. But don't worry. Julian's eyes narrowed, his tone shifting to something deeper, more meaningful. I've already told Leo to spare your life when the time comes. You old-timers should stop trying to stir up so much trouble. The young people of today are not opponents you can afford to trifle with. Sterling was stunned for a second, then he suddenly burst out laughing. He never thought that the seemingly gentle and refined young master of the Reed family could bear such terrifying fangs. Sterling couldn't remember the last time he'd been threatened like this. Spare my life, you say? Well then, let's wait and see. With that, Sterling hung up. Julian put down his phone, stretched, and let out a long breath. He looked out the window, sighing with a melancholic expression. My vacation plans. Right now, he was supposed to be in North Point for a wedding reception. Lying on his bed, Julian stared blankly at the ceiling, lamenting the vacation that had gone up in smoke. Whatever. Knowing that guy Silas, he'll probably get married again. I'll just go to North Point to make it up then. Or maybe when Leo and Ava get married, I can make him come here. If that guy's wedding gift isn't at least a small fortune, he won't even get through the door. My sister's wedding has to be grand, opulent, and classy. I'll have Corbin and Raina Croft work as doormen. Right now, all Julian wanted was to get this mess in Viridian over with, so he could continue his vacation after the new year. There wasn't much going on here to begin with, but Julia Reed had insisted on dragging him over. He thought his sister was in danger, that Viridian was truly about to fall, so he'd rushed back in a panic. But after seeing Adrian, Julian had instantly lost interest. This was it, a total waste of a plane ticket. Maybe I should just slip away tomorrow, he thought, but quickly dismissed the idea. If he did that, Ava would get angry again, and he'd have to find a way to appease her. Silas didn't have a second Manjashaka to give away. Mulling over these random thoughts, Julian yawned, closed his eyes, and drifted into a steady sleep. The next morning, Leo still hadn't heard from Leland Vance. If it weren't for Zara occasionally tracking their movements, he would have suspected the man had already skipped town. In contrast to Leo's group's calm composure, Kalen Croft was growing more and more frantic. Although everyone urged him to be patient, he had already instructed his family to prepare for an evacuation. It had to be said, there was a reason Kalen had survived this long. The old man always planned his escape route first, ready to bolt the moment things went south. And so, the day before New Year's Eve passed in peace. It wasn't until that evening that Leo finally received a message from Leland Vance. We found Sterling's location. Sterling is hiding at Viridian High. He's alone. That was the message Leland had sent. Leo stared at it, his brow furrowed slightly. Viridian High? Why is he still there? He remembered the first time he'd met Sterling was at Viridian High, in his own office. Did the guy not move? Leo himself had moved twice already, but Sterling was still in the same spot. Well, since we found him, let's just stick to the plan tomorrow, Kane said. Leo goes toe-to-toe with Sterling, and we find Jasper Kane. Why wait for tomorrow? Why not now? Ethan Sia asked. We could go right now and catch him off guard. Julian, sitting on the sofa, calmly sipped his tea. There's no need. Since Sterling let his location be known, it means he's already arranged everything. Going early or late makes no difference. So, we might as well get a good night's sleep and build up our strength. Leo nodded in agreement. He and Julian were on the same page. Just then, Ava, a worried look on her face, asked, What about Leland Vance and his people? What if they backstab us? Wouldn't that be terrible? At her words, Leo and the others turned to look at her with strange expressions. What is it? Ava felt a little flustered under their stares. Did I say something wrong? Ava, you're still too naive, Leo said, shaking his head with a smile. Leland Vance is definitely going to backstab us. Ava's eyes widened in confusion. Why? Ethan Sia spoke up. Because Leo isn't exactly a saint himself. If I'm not mistaken, he's been planning how to backstab Leland from the very beginning. Everyone nodded in agreement. That was definitely something Leo would do. Is there something wrong with that? Leo asked, perplexed. Leland is going to backstab me, so I can't backstab him first? But it doesn't seem like Leland has backstabbed us yet, right? Marco piped up timidly. Just because he hasn't done it yet doesn't mean he won't, Leo said, adopting a preachy, earnest tone. Just because he hasn't made a move doesn't mean he doesn't have the idea. And even if he doesn't have the idea now, that doesn't mean he won't have it later. Therefore, to avoid getting screwed over and to nip this risk in the bud, we must strike first. In finance, this is known as risk elimination. Marco's eyes lit up as if he'd just learned something profound. He quickly pulled out a notebook and started jotting it down. As expected of Mr. Leo, he even knows about finance. Marco's admiration for Leo grew even stronger. He decided then and there that when Mr. Leo and the young miss got married, he would become Leo's butler. It was a surefire path to success. Leo basked in Marco's adoring gaze, lifting his chin slightly. It was all valuable knowledge. They should all be taking notes. Aren't you a math major? How do you know about finance? Ethan asked skeptically. Ever heard of a double major? Leo retorted. You're full of it. You haven't even finished your sophomore year and you're already doing a double major? Is your university that amazing? Ethan looked at him with disdain. He was now certain Leo had just pulled all of that out of thin air. The guy just wanted an excuse to justify backstabbing Leland. Ava was numb. She thought she was bad, but in this group, she felt like a pure, innocent little rabbit. She wrinkled her nose, scrutinizing Leo and the others, then shot a final glance at Julian and let out a cold huff. Back home, the most she ever did was play pranks, which was just mischievousness. But this group, led by Leo and Julian, was a bunch of dirty schemers. Not a single one of them had a pure heart, except for Marco. Ava found herself looking at Marco much more favorably now. She decided that from now on, Marco would be her butler. Leland Vance. Leave him to me, Julian suddenly said. Give me a few men, and I'll go play with him. Otherwise, his trip to Viridian would be dreadfully boring. Leo nodded. Right. Marcus Lynn is working for Leland now. Maybe you two can catch up. Marcus Lynn. Julian raised an eyebrow. I'd almost forgotten about him. Has he fallen that far? He's working for Leland now. In Julian's eyes, even leading that minor syndicate from before was better than being someone's lackey. Kane nodded in profound agreement. Exactly. I used to think he was something special, but now I can't even be bothered to talk to him. He's not worthy of my time. Julian's mouth twitched. He glanced at Kane. And you think you're any better? Where's your sniper rifle? Let me see it. Back when Kane was with the Reed family, he had a certain steely resolve. But after spending so much time with Leo, he hadn't exactly become sleazy, but he was definitely more shifty, and his heart was no longer pure. At that thought, Julian quickly stood up. I'm going to rest. He was afraid that if he stayed with Leo any longer, he'd be corrupted too. Once Julian left, the others also got up and headed back to their rooms. Leo turned to Kalen Croft. By the way, Uncle Kalen, tomorrow is New Year's Eve. We'll have to have our New Year's Eve dinner here. Kalen Croft. Can you people please focus on what's important? Kalen couldn't take it anymore, his voice on edge. All you do all day is eat and sleep. Can't you eat later? If you fail tomorrow, we'll all be having New Year's Eve dinner in hell. Leo blinked. Hell, do they have Inferno burritos? Inferno? For God's sake. Kalen cursed, getting up and storming off in a fury. If he stayed any longer, he was going to start a fight with Leo. He was an old man who was supposed to be cultivating his inner peace, and now he was getting worked up every day. Kalen made up his mind. As soon as this was over, he was kicking them all out. If Leo ever came back to Viridian, he was locking the doors and playing dead. He'd never met such an infuriating young man. Tisk, what's with the temper? Can you get hyperthyroidism at his age? Leo muttered, watching Kalen's retreating back. In an instant, only Leo and Ava were left in a large room. Seeing that they were alone, Leo immediately threw himself at Ava, hugging her tightly. Wah, Ava, I've been so lonely sleeping these past few days. I'm so scared. What if the mission fails tomorrow? We're going to kick the bucket and be 6 feet under. My only wish is to sleep with you tonight. Can you grant me this one tiny little wish? Ava looked at him with disgust. Let go. I won't. If you don't agree, I'm not letting go, Leo said, resorting to his usual shameless tactics. Ava sighed. If you don't let go, how are we supposed to go back to our rooms to sleep? Hearing this, Leo immediately released her. A sly glint appeared in Ava's eyes, and she was about to spring up and run. However, Leo simply reached out and swept her up into a princess carry. Hey, Leo, put me down. Shh. Be quiet. You'll wake the others. Leo covered her mouth with his and carried her into the room. Meanwhile, at the Meng cartel's base. Now that Leo has the information, what's our next move? Nighthawk asked Leland Vance. Do we use Quentin Kane to force Jasper out? Leland's eyes narrowed in thought for a moment. No ruse. Let's see what Leo and his group do first. His gaze was cold. If they can find Jasper Kane for us, it saves us a lot of trouble, doesn't it? In short, we'll be the patient hunter waiting in the wings. If they fail, we retreat. And what if they succeed? Nighthawk asked. At that, a sharp glint flashed in Leland's eyes. The room fell silent. After a long moment, Leland finally spoke. Nighthawk, if Leo's side wins, how much strength do you think they'll have left? Nighthawk's eyes flickered. You mean, you want to make a move on Leo? Leland nodded. I won't touch him until he and Sterling have settled things. After all, alliances like this naturally dissolve once the mission is over. That's perfectly normal, isn't it? With that, Leland let out a low chuckle. Nighthawk smiled as well. If that was the case, he truly hoped Leo would beat Sterling. That way, he could personally witness Leo's fall from grace. Back at the Croft estate, in Ava's room. Now, I said let go of me. Thump! Leo obediently let go, and Ava fell straight onto the bed. Leo, you dare to drop me? Ava stared at him in disbelief. You told me to let go, Leo said with an innocent expression. Ava clenched her fists, grinding her teeth. Get out. No. Leo said righteously. I'm in my girlfriend's room. Is that illegal? But you didn't have my permission. Your mom gave her permission. What? Ava's eyes widened. When did she agree to that? You want me to go ask her now? Leo turned as if he was about to go find Julia Reed that very second. Get back here. Ava quickly grabbed him. A triumphant smile spread across Leo's face. See? You're the one who won't let me leave. Ava bit her lip. You just love to bully me. Leo held her close, his voice softening. All right, I'll stop teasing. I actually want to talk to you about something serious. Serious? What is it? Ava lifted her head in confusion and was suddenly taken aback. She had never seen such a serious look in Leo's eyes, though she couldn't be sure if he was faking it. She heard Leo speak slowly, uttering a sentence that made her entire brain short-circuit. Ava, after we get back to Ethelberg, let's get married. We can get the license first, and then have the wedding after we graduate. What do you think? Ava blinked, and it took a long moment for her to process what he'd said. Are you serious? She asked softly. Yeah, I'm serious, Leo said, his voice firm. Ava's cheeks flushed red, and she buried her face in Leo's chest, her heart hammering against her ribs. So, is this a proposal? Leo scratched his head awkwardly, giving a sheepish grin. You know I'm not great with romance, so I'm not good at that kind of stuff. Even when I confessed to you, I originally wanted to do it in some romantic setting, but I just couldn't figure out how. Hearing that, Ava rolled her eyes. The mere mention of it made her angry. He had promised her a surprise, but in the end, thanks to his shamelessness, they had just sort of stumbled into a relationship. But she also knew that this pig was a complete idiot when it came to love. Expecting romance from him was a lost cause. But, you don't even have a ring? That, Ava couldn't tolerate. Leo blinked. To be honest, he really had forgotten. I'll go buy one now. Leo started to get up, but Ava pulled him back with a wry smile. Come on, where are you going to find a jewelry store open now? Besides, this is Viridian. Ava wrapped her arms around his, resting her head on his shoulder. I accept. Huh, you idiot. Ava tilted her head up, gave him a soft kiss on the lips, then looked into his eyes, a blissful smile on her face. I said, I accept your proposal, but you have to get me a ring later. I'm the young miss of the Reed family, so don't you dare try to fob me off with some cheap thing. It has to be expensive. A sly grin spread across her face. In her heart, of course, anything from Leo would be the most precious. However, that wasn't what Leo was thinking at that moment. The most precious ring? And it has to be one of a kind? That made him think of the Manjashaka. Leo mused to himself. Maybe I can get Julian to ask that guy Silas to melt down the Manjashaka and forge a pair of rings. That would be precious enough, and certainly one of a kind. With a plan in mind, Leo hugged Ava tightly, his voice full of confidence. Don't worry, I'll give you the most unique ring in the world. Good? If I'm not satisfied, you just wait and see, Ava threatened menacingly. In this atmosphere, the two cuddled for a long time before slowly drifting off to sleep. Leo had been ready to take that final step, but Ava stopped him. What's the rush? After we get the license back in Ethelberg, you can do whatever you want, Ava said, a cunning glint in her eyes. She hooked her pale arm around his neck, her tone laced with temptation. It was enough to make Leo want to sprint all the way back to Ethelberg that very night. What about the fate of Viridian City? Who gave a damn? He was busy getting married. The next morning, just as the sky began to lighten, Leo was frantically knocking on Julian's door. What is it? What happened? Julian, thinking something had gone wrong, quickly opened the door. It's huge. The biggest thing ever, Leo said, hurriedly explaining his idea about having Silas forge the rings. Normally, Julian would have told Leo he was out of his mind. But this concerned Ava. That's not a bad idea, Julian said, raising an eyebrow. Indeed, only rings forged from the Manjashaka would be worthy of my sister. Right? Leo grew even more excited seeing that Julian agreed with him. All right, leave it to me. I'll make a trip to North Point later and find Silas again, Julian said, patting Leo's shoulder reassuringly. Seeing this, Leo's heart was finally at ease. It was New Year's Eve. Although Viridian City was gripped by panic, on a day like this, many people still began to hang lanterns and put up festive decorations, trying to add a touch of holiday spirit. For the vast majority of ordinary people, no matter how chaotic the outside world became, all they could do was live their own lives. With a monthly salary of a few $1,000s, they had to buy cars, pay mortgages, and cover all sorts of trivial expenses, living a routine and difficult life day after day. For people like them, the new year was perhaps the only time they could truly relax. If you told one of them that Viridian was about to be destroyed, they might just chuckle and say, well, then I'd better open that bottle of good stuff I've been saving. Might not get another chance. People like that were everywhere. If the end of the world was coming, they would just find their family or best friends and waste time freely together. Perhaps that was humanity's best way of conquering death. Meanwhile, at the Croft estate, Kalen, you old goat, I'm asking you, can you make New Year's Eve dinner or not? Julia Reed jabbed a finger at Kalen Croft's nose. Do you think my son-in-law can't beat Sterling? Kalen's head was throbbing. It's not too late to cook after he wins. If he lost, they were all done for anyway. So who would give a damn about dinner? Besides, if you ask the kitchen staff, do they have the heart to cook right now? Kalen just didn't understand how these people could be so cavalier. They were about to go into action, and they were still thinking about food. Just then, Leo walked over, slurping a bowl of breakfast burritos Gwen had made. It's all right, Aunt Julia. I'll take care of Sterling as quickly as possible, and we'll be back for dinner soon. Julia beamed. That's my son-in-law. That kind of calm demeanor is miles better than some people's sons and daughters. Kalen's eye twitched. She might as well have just read Corbin and Raina's social security numbers out loud. To be fair, while Raina was another story, Corbin was actually quite outstanding among his peers. The problem was that Julian and Leo were just too monstrous. One was all schemes, and the other not only had schemes, but also terrifying combat prowess. How could anyone compare? It was impossible. You could drag out any of those blue-blooded heirs from NYC, and they still wouldn't measure up to these two freaks. Then, Julia asked with a hint of concern, so, son-in-law, are you confident? Though she spoke casually, she was still worried. After all, this was Sterling they were talking about. Getting the upper hand on him was next to impossible. In NYC, if someone said they were going to go toe-to-toe with Sterling, everyone's first reaction would be to erect a hero's monument for them in advance. Don't worry, Aunt Julia. Leo slurped his burrito. I'll win. He had the system, after all. He didn't believe Sterling had one too. 2 lives to take down one Sterling? If he couldn't do that, he might as well quit, and the system would be a laughingstock in its own circles. Mr. Lau. At that moment, Zara walked over with a small earpiece and handed it to him. Wear this. We'll be able to hear your conversation with Sterling. That way, if you get any clues about Jasper Kane's location from him, we can act immediately. Leo took the earpiece and examined it. He didn't think it was necessary. All he had to do was kill Sterling. But since Julian had said Sterling couldn't be killed, Leo decided to trust his brother-in-law this once. Besides, if he killed Sterling and the man's failsafe still activated, they'd truly be finished. Putting the earpiece on, Leo chuckled. All right, it's about time. Let's get this show on the road. That guy Sterling has probably been waiting for me for a while. Everyone turned to look at him. Leo, old pal, if you're really in trouble, just scream for help. Your boy Ethan will come save you. Ethan joked. Get lost. Leo shot back. And my gun. Remember to give it back when you're done. Kane added. Go get him, Mr. Lau. Marco raised a fist. Go, Mr. Lau. Gwen peeked her head out from the kitchen. Just don't die, Alex Young said flatly, adjusting his glasses. Go get him, son-in-law. Julia encouraged. Dylan Miller just gave Leo a look that said, "I'll be waiting for you to come back." "Leo, I'll be right here, waiting for you," Ava said, looking at him seriously. "If you don't come back, I'm not going anywhere." Leo stared at the scene, momentarily stunned. When had so many people started standing behind him? From being alone in Ethelberg, to meeting Ava, and then getting to know everyone in her family. Later, he'd crossed paths with the BSO in Ethelberg, and with Director Jensen's help, he'd earned their respect. Then came Westlake City, and now Viridian. From just Leo, to old pal Leo and Mr. Lau. He suddenly realized that along the way, more and more people had joined his side. He glanced around at the familiar faces, and a feeling washed over him. He didn't want any one of them to die. Leo gave a wry smile, feeling a bit helpless. "I'm leaving." He turned and refused Marco's offer to drive him. Viridian High wasn't far. At his pace, he could get there in less than an hour. After Leo left, Julian stretched and said to Corbin Croft, "Get your men. You're with me." "Huh?" Corbin was bewildered. "Gee, go where?" Julian smiled faintly. "I'm taking you to go play with Leland Vance." Corbin's heart skipped a beat. He forced a smile. "Andy, you must be joking. How could I possibly be worthy of going on a mission with you?" Julian just looked at him silently. Corbin's smile vanished. "Right away, Andy. I'll go get ready," he said meekly. Julian nodded in satisfaction. "You have 10 minutes. I'll be waiting outside." With that, he turned and left. Corbin, his face a mask of misery, hurried to gather his men. Damn it. What if Viridian doesn't get destroyed, but I do? Corbin was filled with dread, but he moved quickly. Julian had only given him 10 minutes. "Hurry up, move it. Don't keep Andy waiting." Seeing this, Kalen covered his face in agony. The men Corbin was calling were all from the Chow Dominion. He hadn't dared to call on a single person from Julia's Umbra. How had he raised such a son? He used to think he was decent, but now he couldn't stand the sight of him. He should have had another one back then. Kalen sighed repeatedly. At this point, he just gave up. Let them do whatever they wanted. Leo walked with a wandering gaze, once again passing the street that sold candied apples. There were fewer people than before, but the owner was still there, though a red lantern now hung in front of his stall. "Hey, one candied apple, strawberry, coming right up." "Oh, isn't it the young fellow from before?" The owner recognized Leo immediately. The memory of him buying an apple for Hope had left a strong impression. He took out a candied apple and smiled. "I was just about to close up anyway. It's the new year today, so this one's on the house." As he wrapped it in sugar paper, he added, "Gotta hurry home to the wife and kids. Who knows if there'll even be a tomorrow." Leo watched him silently. Just then, he felt a tug on his clothes. He looked down to see a little girl looking up at him with wide eyes. "Happy New Year, big brother," Hope said with a cheerful smile. She had been coming here often since that day, hoping to see Leo again. Today, she had finally spotted the familiar figure at the stall and immediately ran over. Leo chuckled. "Happy New Year." He pointed to the candied apple. "Want some?" Hope shook her head. "Mommy said I can't keep taking things from people, or they'll start to dislike me." Hearing this, Leo didn't insist. He took the candied apple and started eating it himself. "Big brother, are you the great hero who's come to save us?" Hope asked. "Great hero? What great hero?" Leo replied. "Mommy said that if everyone in Viridian is going to die, a great hero will come to save us." Hope blinked, looking at Leo with eyes full of hope. "Will you save us? I don't want to die, and I don't want Mommy to die either." As she spoke, tears welled up in the little girl's eyes. The candied apple vendor sighed with a wry smile. In this world, there were no heroes anymore. Everyone was just trying to fend for themselves. You didn't even see people helping old ladies cross the street anymore. Being a hero came at a price. Leo looked at Hope and asked softly, "So, you've been waiting here every day just for me?" Hope nodded gently. Leo smiled and patted her head. "You should go home. On a day like today, you should be with your mom. As for a great hero, I'm sorry, but I'm not one." Disappointment filled Hope's eyes. But Leo's tone shifted. "Viridian will be fine. I promise." Nearby, the vendor heard Leo's words and just shook his head with a smile, assuming he was just placating a child. "Oh, really?" Hope asked. "Yeah, really," Leo answered. At that, Hope's face broke into a smile. She nodded happily. "Okay, I'll go be with my mom right now." She turned and ran off, not forgetting to wave back at Leo. "Goodbye, big brother." Leo nodded with a smile as the vendor finished packing up his stall. "Well, brother, I'm heading home too. Happy New Year." The owner waved and rode away on his bike. Leo watched him go, eating the candied apple with a blank expression. "Fisk, no wonder he gave it to me for free. These strawberries aren't even fresh." Leo flipped a middle finger at the owner's retreating back. Good thing it was a freebie. If he had paid for it, the owner probably wouldn't be making it home tonight. Eating his candied apple, Leo strolled unhurriedly towards Viridian High. Along the way, he saw many people, some panicked, some resigned to their fate, and some smiling brightly. Soon, the candied apple was gone, and Leo finally arrived at Viridian High. The main gate isn't even locked. Is this a welcome party? Leo chuckled, looking at the wide-open iron gates. He stepped onto the school grounds and activated the earpiece. "Hello, can you hear me?" he whispered. "We can hear you," Zara's voice replied in his ear. Leo nodded slightly, walked to his office, and pushed open the door. There was the familiar recliner, and on it, the familiar person. "HM, you're here." Hearing the door open, Sterling sat up from the chair and looked at Leo standing in the doorway. He yawned. "You're later than I expected." A smirk played on Leo's lips. "Were you that impatient?" "Not really." Sterling stood up and said slowly, "The last time we met here, you weren't wearing an earpiece." Leo's eyebrows shot up. Just as he was about to speak, Sterling cut him off. "It's fine. You don't have to take it off. They can listen in." With that, he sat down on the sofa. "You want to know where Jasper Kane is, right? He's somewhere in the center of Viridian City right now." Sterling seemed to have seen through Leo's purpose from the start, smiling nonchalantly. "It's still a few hours until 8 p.m. You can go ahead and search. If you find him, you win." Leo's brow furrowed. "Since you're saying this, it means you don't think we can find him, right?" Sterling said faintly. "Leo, do you know how big Viridian is? Do you know how big the city center is? With the handful of people you have, trying to find Jasper Kane is like looking for a needle in a haystack." He calmly sipped his tea. "So go ahead and search. You'd better go door to door, or you might miss his hiding spot." He didn't need to say it. By now, everyone from the Umbra and the Chow Dominion was already out in full force. Zara was also using every means at her disposal to try and locate Jasper Kane. Leo looked at Sterling. "How about another hint?" "That won't do," Sterling said with a shake of his head and a smile. "You have Julian Reed on your side. If I say too much, there'll be no fun left for me. However, as I said before, you have another path you can choose. For example, by answering a question for me." Sterling walked to the side, suddenly pulled out a phone stand, and placed his phone on it. As Leo watched in confusion, Sterling turned on the phone, and the camera instantly showed both of them in the frame. It was a live stream. "Hello, my friends in Viridian," Sterling said to the camera with a smile. "That's right, it's me again. Remember what I said before? That I would destroy Viridian today. However, you're in luck. At this very moment, a hero is attempting to save you." Sterling stepped aside, leaving Leo fully visible in the frame. His tone was mocking. "And now, it is time for our great hero to make his choice." And now, it is time for our great hero to make his choice. Across every electronic screen in Viridian, Leo's image appeared as Sterling's words echoed. Many people pulled out their phones to watch the live stream, a torrent of comments scrolling across the screen. "What's going on? This psycho isn't serious, is he? Who is that guy? Why is he saying he's saving us? Damn it, can't they stop this stupid prank? Can't we just have a peaceful new year? Can that guy really save us?" Of course, the vast majority of comments were just curses, all of which were automatically censored. After all, the internet is not a lawless place. Swearing is bad behavior and should not be encouraged. Meanwhile, back at the Croft estate, everyone saw the live stream and immediately felt a sense of dread. Although they didn't know what Sterling was planning, cutting the feed was undoubtedly the right choice. Zara, everyone looked at her. Right now, she was perhaps the only one who could stop the broadcast. However, Zara just sat there, staring blankly at her monitor, unmoving. "Zara, why are you?" Ava walked over to ask, but her voice trailed off when she saw Zara's screen. All of Zara's computer monitors were black, with a few large, red words glowing in the center. "Don't interfere." Seeing this, no one knew what to say. Zara lowered her head, her voice dejected. "He took direct control of my computers. I can't do anything. I am sorry." As the team's sole tech specialist, she had been repeatedly outmaneuvered by the enemy's hacker. Zara felt she had lost all face. "It's okay, Zara." Ava suddenly pulled out her phone and showed it to everyone. It was a message from Julian. "Don't panic. Leave it to Leo." Seeing the message, everyone felt a bit more at ease, though they still watched their phone screens with worried eyes. Somewhere else in Viridian, in a dimly lit small room, the only light came from a computer screen, accompanied by the clatter of a keyboard. "Can't let you ruin the leader's fun." Adrian, wearing glasses, smiled. He was the new Centuries hacker, who had been operating from the shadows all along. At that moment, Sterling was grandly introducing Leo. "Everyone, The man standing before you is the embodiment of justice, Leo Evans. It was he who brought peace to Ethelberg, ending the conflicts. It was also he who saved Westlake City from disaster, striking down evil forces and letting the light of righteousness shine upon it. And now, he has come to Viridian. Unable to bear watching you perish along with the city, he has come to face me. Hearing Sterling's introduction, everyone at the Croft estate had strange expressions. Didn't Sterling's conscience hurt saying all that? And Leo, why weren't you refuting any of it? What was with that smug look on your face? Little did they know, from Leo's perspective, Sterling wasn't wrong. Without him, Ethelberg and Westlake City would have been a mess, maybe even a second Viridian. He deserved the praise. Shamelessly, Leo tilted his head up slightly, listening to Sterling's various commendations. Is this for real? Is this Leo guy that incredible? Does that mean we're saved? We're not going to die. Is this some kind of special TV show? Low, low, low. At home, Hope was also watching Leo on the television. She jumped to her feet excitedly, her eyes shining with admiration. Mommy, look, that's the big brother I was telling you about. He really is the hero who came to save us. Her mother looked at the screen, a glimmer of hope in her own eyes. Holy crap, it's that kid. The candied apple vendor also saw Leo at home, shocked. Wait, this guy has that kind of background? I should have given him a few more apples, maybe gotten an autograph or something. He pointed at Leo, excitedly telling his wife and kids, this guy, Leo Evans, I just saw him earlier. I even gave him a candied apple. The vendor sounded as if he'd just met a huge celebrity, his voice full of pride. Meanwhile, 2 kilometers from Viridian High. Interesting. What is Sterling planning? Leland Vance stared at his phone screen, deep in thought. He had been monitoring the situation at the high school closely. Only after a winner was decided could he determine whether to retreat or attack. Cyrus, what do you think? Leland turned to Cyrus Lynn. Cyrus slowly shook his head. I can't tell. Sterling's mind has always been impossible to read. True. Let's just wait and see what he's up to, Leland said, his eyes glued to the screen. It could be said that at this moment, everyone except the Umbra and the Chow Dominion was focused on Leo. And Jasper Kane's location remained a mystery. Seeing that Sterling was still rambling on, Leo couldn't help but interrupt. All right, Sterling, what do you really want? What choice do you want me to make? Sterling fell silent. He turned to face Leo. On the screen, the two of them stood opposite each other. Sterling smiled, a little apologetically. Sorry about that. I'm new to live streaming, got a bit excited. Let's get down to business. With that, Sterling slowly pulled a pistol from his pocket. Everyone watching held their breath. What is that in his hand? Is that a real gun? Whoa, this is real. Not a TV show. He's not going to kill Leo, is he? Leo glanced at the gun in Sterling's hand, his expression unfazed. Sterling raised the pistol and looked at Leo with a smile. I said, you came to see me to answer a question. He gestured towards the phone screen. Your answer will decide their fate. Leo stared back at him, expressionless, waiting for him to continue. Sterling said slowly, my question is, Leo Evans, are you willing to sacrifice yourself to save them? Or will you save yourself and watch them die? A playful look on his face, Sterling held out the gun to Leo. One gun, one bullet. Will you turn this bullet on yourself? Or on them? The people watching the live stream were on the edge of their seats. What's going on? What does he mean? Either Leo dies, or we die. What kind of joke is this? Why should the lives of so many of us be decided by him? Leo, please save us. We'll remember you forever. Glancing at the comments scrolling across the screen, Leo turned and looked at the pistol Sterling was offering him. Sterling winked at him, motioning for him to take the gun. If you choose to save them, just point this gun at your own temple and gently pull the trigger. If you choose to save yourself, I will wait for you to evacuate your people before I destroy Viridian. Leo reached out, took the pistol, and opened the cylinder. There was indeed only one bullet inside, not a blank. Somewhere in the shadows, Professor Miller saw this and cursed under his breath. Damn it, Sterling, you bastard. He'd been outplayed. Sterling had no intention of letting Leo die. All he wanted was for Leo to publicly choose self-sacrifice, cementing his legend. And the only person who could save Leo from that bullet was Professor Miller himself. Don't save him, and you'll have to watch him die. Can you do that? You want to stay out of the game, but he won't let you. Sterling watched Leo with a calm expression. He didn't want to resort to such extreme measures, but the situation in NYC was deteriorating, and he was running out of time. Interesting. This is just too interesting. Leland Vance watched the scene unfold, his face alight with excitement. Leave it to Sterling to come up with something like this. Now I want to see how Leo chooses. Cyrus Lynn remarked coolly. Sterling has already built Leo up to be a god, practically calling him an agent of justice. If Leo chooses to save himself now, even if he survives, his reputation will be ruined forever. Viridian was destroyed because of Leo Evans. That story will spread everywhere. Public opinion can kill a person, and it can kill those around them. Sterling is backing Leo into a corner. Leland nodded in admiration. He's truly ruthless. There's a reason I hate being his opponent. Having Sterling as an enemy was a nightmare. But watching someone else fight him was a uniquely satisfying experience. Sacrifice myself to save them. Leo looked at the gun in his hand and muttered to himself. He was starting to understand what Sterling was doing. Combined with what Julian had said about not killing Sterling, a few pieces clicked into place. Damn it, you can't screw me over like this, Julian, Leo cursed inwardly. If Sterling and Julian were really in cahoots, he was definitely going to beat Julian up. If he pulled the trigger, he probably wouldn't die. And even if he did, he had 2 lives. It didn't matter. Trading one of his lives for the millions in Viridian was a steal. Such a heroic deed, such fame, a chance to go down in history. Who the hell cares? Leo looked up, a lazy expression on his face, and stared at Sterling. This is your plan? This is it. He scoffed, then slowly walked past Sterling and stood in front of the phone. Leo looked at the stream of comments, almost all of them begging him to sacrifice himself. His face filled most of the screen as he spoke, his voice dripping with mockery. So, you're all afraid to die, huh? You want me to save you? How do you have to stack your pillows to have a dream that ridiculous? Just sitting at home, waiting for a handout, typing a few words, and you expect someone to throw their life away for you. Since 2 days ago, what have any of you done besides panic and run? Leo's smile vanished. His tone dropped, low and heavy. Honestly, from what I can see, you people in Viridian aren't living. You're surviving. How is someone like you supposed to change? I don't think you can. When you're threatened, what do you do besides compromise? Is this pathetic, hand-to-mouth existence the life you once dreamed of? You cowards, content with your lot in life. His voice rose to a roar that echoed throughout Viridian. Don't your lives have a voice? Sterling stared at Leo, stunned. He had prepared for this, with a backup plan in case Leo refused to sacrifice himself. But he never expected Leo to say something like this. Ignoring the comments, now arguing back at him, Leo held up the gun, gave it a flick, and tossed it to the floor in the distance. You don't like what I'm saying? So what? All you can do is type a few words on the internet anyway. Leo chuckled. You want to live? If you don't want to die, then do something about it. Go find a man named Jasper Kane. Find him, and you live. Fail to find him, and you can end your pathetic, compromised lives right here. With that, Leo snatched the phone and slammed it onto the ground, shattering the screen. Then he looked up, a wide grin spreading across his face as he looked at Sterling. That's my choice. Are you satisfied? He had 2 lives. He could save Viridian once, but he couldn't save it a second or third time. For Leo, saving people was a result, not the goal. Some problems, if not fixed at the root, were just a waste of effort. Sterling was silent for a long time. Then he started to laugh. Leo Evans, Julian Reed was right. You truly are a dangerously unstable element. You win, because you gave me an unexpected, yet far more perfect, answer. Sterling knew that Leo's words would have an effect, mobilizing the entire population of Viridian to find Jasper Kane. No matter how well he was hidden, he would be found. And in doing so, a seed would be planted in the hearts of everyone in the city. The seed of defiance. Even if another major power tried to take control of Viridian in the future, it would be a much harder task. Sterling walked over and clapped Leo on the shoulder. Don't get cocky. Viridian is just an appetizer. After the new year, go to NYC. They need you there. Happy New Year. With a smile, Sterling turned and walked out of the office. From the shadows, Professor Miller watched him go and shook his head with a smile. Well, that's a rare sight. Seeing Sterling admit defeat. After Leo smashed the phone, the screens across Viridian City went dark. The people had just been chewed out, and before they could even react, he was gone. They had no way to yell back at him. After a moment of stunned silence, they quickly recovered. Damn it, who the hell does Leo Evans think he is, talking to us like that? I needed him to save me? Who asked him? Where's this Jasper Kane asshole? Let's find him and show that bastard Leo Evans that we don't need his help. Son of a bitch, I've never been cursed out like that in my life. If I don't let off some steam today, this New Year's Eve is ruined. Where's Jasper Kane? Jasper Kane, get your ass out here. A wave of fury swept through the city. Countless enraged people stormed out of their homes, shouting Jasper Kane's name. A few were cursing Leo, but they were in the minority. Right now, most of Viridian was seething with a pent-up energy, and the only target they knew was Jasper Kane. Finding him was a way to vent their anger and, incidentally, save their own lives. Leo's speech had mobilized the entire city. A citywide manhunt for Jasper Kane was on, and they were highly motivated. We Viridianites need you, Leo Evans, to save us. We can't even find one person. Our lives don't have a voice. We'll shout so loud you can't ignore it. Jasper Kane, Leo Evans, where are you two bastards? The roars were everywhere. Viridian was suddenly more alive than it had been in years. The members of the Chow Dominion and the Umbra, who were already searching for Jasper, were now completely bewildered. Was their help even needed anymore? And why were people looking for Leo now, too? Were they sure they could even take him in a fight? Meanwhile, inside the Croft estate, there was a dead silence. Kalen Croft's face was twitching. He was the one in the worst position. In the past, Viridian had been controlled by a few major syndicates, and the common people were powerless to resist. But after what Leo had just done, what was going to happen to his Chow Dominion? The other powers had left. The Umbra probably wouldn't stay in Viridian much longer, leaving the Chow Dominion as the only major power left. And with the people's spirit of resistance just ignited, how would they treat a major power like his? Would they stage an uprising and drive the Chow Dominion out? Kalen, old friend, why don't you just come back to Ethelbert with us? Julia Reed saw his predicament and teased. If you dare to stay in Viridian, with the way things are going, your family is going to look like the final boss in a video game. Her words made Kalen feel even more miserable, but he stubbornly retorted, "Humph, you think I'm afraid of them?" However, just as he said that, a loud shout came from outside the estate walls. Chow Dominion, get out of Viridian! Chow Dominion, get out of Viridian! The powerful chant reached everyone inside, and all eyes turned to Kalen. His face turned a ghastly shade of green, looking as if he'd just swallowed a brick. Patriarch, this is bad. A huge crowd has gathered outside, shouting for us to get out of Viridian. A guard reported urgently over the phone. I heard them. Kalen snapped. Ignore them. As long as they don't physically attack, don't engage. He slammed the phone down, taking several deep breaths. Everyone watched him in silence. After a long moment, Kalen turned to Julia Reed. When are you all heading back to Ethelbert? Julia smiled faintly. Don't worry. We'll be sure to call you when we leave. The others' shoulders shook as they tried to suppress their laughter. But for now, everyone could finally breathe a sigh of relief. They knew Leo had won. There had been no earth-shattering battle, no thunder of guns. The fights between men like Leo and Sterling weren't fought with such crude methods, but with more subtle duels of wit and will. It was like a game of Go. For Julian, he might have settled the score with Sterling overboard. For Leo, it was much simpler. If he could play the game, he'd play. If he couldn't, he'd flip the whole damn table over. What now? Cyrus Lynn asked Leland Vance. Do we strike, or do we retreat? Leland frowned. He knew he didn't have much time to hesitate. Right now, Leo should be alone at Viridian High, and Sterling can't have gone far. Even if they have men with them, they can't possibly withstand a surprise attack from us. This way, even if we can't kill Leo, we have a high chance of taking out Sterling. He's not a monster like Leo. In a flash, Leland made his decision. He looked up sharply and commanded, move out. Prioritize killing Sterling. The moment he gave the order, his men appeared from the shadows. But just as they were about to move, a voice suddenly cut through the air. You said, you want to kill who? Leland's entire body trembled. He spun around. A group of men in black stood silently behind a middle-aged man, their eyes like daggers fixed on Leland's group. Leland Vance, you really can't help yourself, can you? Principal Chapman said slowly. Leland's gaze was heavy. Who are you? Are you with Sterling? You don't need to know that. The leader said that since you want to make a move, you won't be leaving Viridian. With just this handful of men. Leland looked at the men in black and sneered. If I'm not mistaken, most of the New Century's forces are already in NYC managing the situation, right? If I hadn't gotten that intel, I wouldn't have dared to move against you so openly. Here in Viridian, Sterling has almost no one left. What are you going to fight me with? Chapman's expression didn't change. The leader said you're not to leave Viridian alive. Leland scoffed. And who's going to stop me? I am. Another voice suddenly rang out. Leland's pupils contracted. He spun around again. Julian Reed was waving at him with a smile. With me added to the mix, is it enough? Julian Reed, why are you here? Leland started to panic. He saw the men from the Chow Dominion standing behind Julian. With Chapman in front and Julian behind, trapped between them, he probably had no chance of escape. Chapman glanced at Julian. Even if you hadn't come, I wouldn't have died. Ah, then just consider me passing by, Julian said with a smile. Corbin Croft was panicking. He had no idea what was going on. Weren't they supposed to be dealing with Leland Vance? Why were people from the New Century working with them? And, judging by Julian's demeanor, it seemed like he had come specifically to support the New Century. Could it be? Was Julian secretly in contact with Sterling all along, a mole planet on their side? Corbin felt as if he had stumbled upon a massive secret. Was Julian going to silence him? He eyed Julian with a mix of suspicion and fear, his expression screaming traitor. Julian turned and saw the look on his face, instantly guessing what he was thinking. This idiot. Sighing, Julian said wearily, "It's not what you think. I'll explain when we get back." Corbin still looked skeptical. Julian's brow furrowed, and his tone sharpened. "What? Is my word not good enough for you anymore?" "And no, not all, Andy. I was wrong. I shouldn't have doubted you," Corbin blurted out, a near Pavlovian response. Seeing this, Julian's expression softened, and he turned away. He was starting to suspect Corbin had some kind of fetish for being yelled at. "Julian Reed, I see no reason for you to help Sterling," Leland said, his gaze grave. "A man like Sterling walks the line between good and evil. No one knows his true intentions. Aren't you afraid he'll backstab you one day? Stop trying to sow discord." "It's useless," Julian said with a yawn. "You keep wasting time with this nonsense, and Leo is going to get here. You know what he's capable of. Do you really think you'll have a chance to escape once he arrives?" Hearing this, Leland didn't hesitate. "Attack," he roared. But as he gave the order, Night Hawk suddenly burst forward, sprinting off in a different direction. "Night Hawk!" Leland bellowed. "You dare to run?" Night Hawk didn't answer, only running faster. He was never truly one of Leland's men. He had only come to Viridian for a showdown with the ghost. He had no intention of dying here. Night Hawk's sudden desertion crushed the morale of Leland's forces. The moment the fight began, they were at a disadvantage. Cyrus Lynn wanted to get back to the car to release Preston Sheen, but Julian had already secured the area, posting men to guard it. There was no way through. If this continued, they would all be wiped out soon. And that was before Leo even arrived. Once he did, even with Preston Sheen, it would be hopeless. At this point, their only option was to retreat and save their own skins. "Leland, go!" Cyrus Lynn roared, covering Leland as they retreated in the same direction Night Hawk had fled. Chapman frowned. The only free hands available to pursue them were on Julian's side. "Julian Reed," he shouted, "send your men after them. Don't let Leland escape." However, Julian merely glanced at the fleeing Leland and ignored Chapman's command. "Julian Reed," Chapman yelled again. If they didn't act now, Leland would really get away. "Stop shouting. Let him go," Julian said calmly. "Leland Vance will be useful back in NYC." Hearing this, Chapman looked at Leland's retreating figure, his fists clenched. He wanted to give chase, but after a moment of internal struggle, he ultimately held back. With Leland and Cyrus gone, they quickly finished off the remaining men. "Why did you let him go?" Chapman walked up to Julian, his voice low. The leader's orders were for him to die in Viridian. "What do your leader's orders have to do with me?" Julian replied coolly. "I don't work for Sterling. I was just bored and decided to stop by for some fun." Chapman stared at Julian silently. After a long moment, he turned and left with his men, leaving behind only a single sentence. "I'll repay this debt." If Julian hadn't been there today, he never would have crushed Leland's forces so easily. The probability of him dying here would have been extremely high. In a way, Julian had saved his life. After walking some distance, Chapman called Sterling. Julian Reed showed up. Leland Vance and Cyrus Lynn escaped. I know. Should we lock down Viridian and hunt them down?" "No need. If they got away, they got away," Sterling said with a light laugh. "Consider it a favor to Julian Reed." Chapman's eyebrows shot up. He'd never heard of Sterling owing anyone a favor. But since Sterling had said it, he dropped the matter. "Where are you now?" Chapman asked. "On my way to the Central Station," Sterling replied casually. "Things in NYC have become too volatile. I need to go oversee them. This time, it might be even worse than the Manhattan incident." Hearing this, Chapman's expression also grew grim. He had only recently learned about the situation in NYC. An asset uprising. Those major families, always researching things they couldn't control. Now, they were paying the price. The scale isn't large yet, but it's only a matter of time. And what I'm worried about is that this uprising wasn't an accident. It might have been premeditated. In the worst-case scenario, I suspect some of the assets have gained intelligence. Then I'll come back with you," Chapman said urgently. "Forget it, old friend," Sterling interrupted with a smile. "If you leave, what about your school? Stay in Viridian?" and make sure no more trouble starts. I have to go. I'm at the station. Hanging up now, Sterling ended the call. Chapman stood there, listening to the dial tone. After a long moment, he lowered the phone with a wry smile. I hope you make it back alive, he muttered. In a corner of Viridian, in a small patch of woods, a soft, wet crunching sound could be heard like someone eating. Suddenly, a figure shot up from a thicket of bushes. Its body was smeared with blood that dripped steadily onto the ground. Its jaws worked up and down, chewing on something as fresh blood oozed from the corners of its mouth. Its gaze pierced through the trees, fixing on a now dark electronic screen on a distant skyscraper. Elio. Uvion. It mumbled the name, its speech slurred. After swallowing what was in its mouth, it seemed to have evolved, its voice gradually becoming clearer. Elio. Evans. Leo Evans. Delicious. Jasper Kane. Jasper Kane, get out here. Everyone search carefully. We have to find that son of a bitch. Inside a dilapidated shack in Viridian, Adrian heard the approaching voices and pushed his glasses up his nose with a sigh of resignation. As he hit the final key on his keyboard, the progress bar on the screen reached 100%. Seeing this, Adrian breathed a sigh of relief. He stood up, stretched his neck, and let out a long yawn. Phew, finally finished, he murmured. With this, those 4 earthquake devices are completely disabled. He glanced at the activation device on the side. And this thing is now just a piece of junk. That was some seriously complex code. Even for me, it took 2 full days and nights to crack, and I had to deal with that little hacker on the side. Adrian flexed his wrists, then wiped all the data from his computers. As he did all this, in a corner of the room, a man who was bound and gagged struggled relentlessly. It was Jasper Kane, the man the entire city was hunting. After cleaning up, Adrian walked slowly to the corner and ripped the tape from Jasper's mouth. Shoo! Adrian placed a finger to his lips, signaling for Jasper to be quiet. Right now, the entire city is looking for you. What do you think will happen to you when they find you? Jasper's face filled with panic. What are you people trying to do? Weren't you going to destroy Viridian? He had personally witnessed Adrian's actions. The activation device, the earthquake machines, Adrian had disabled them all. And if the device was useless, so was he. Adrian just smiled without answering. He patted Jasper on the shoulder. Good luck. With that, he put on a baseball cap, changed into a dark jacket, and left the shack. Stepping outside, Adrian saw the approaching crowd in the distance. He smiled, then shouted at the top of his lungs, I found Jasper Kane. He's in here. After his shout, Adrian pulled the brim of his cap down low and walked away, his destination the same as Sterling's, NYC. As he left, he glanced back in a certain direction and said cryptically, I hope you've improved by next time. Little hacker. His shout quickly drew a large crowd. They kicked down a shack door and saw Jasper Kane, tied up inside. Help me. Help me. I'm a victim. I'm a victim too. Jasper screamed at the menacing crowd. Sterling is the real mastermind. I am innocent. But they weren't listening. They dragged him brutally from the shack. Ack, it hurts. Jasper cried out as he was thrown to the ground. He pleaded, Everyone, I'm the head of the main cartel. If you let me go, I'll give you anything you want. He didn't know yet that his cartel was all but wiped out. He didn't know that his son, Quentin, had been taken away by Nighthawk. Right now, Jasper Kane was a general without an army. Head of the main cartel. The crowd sneered. Jasper clearly didn't understand his situation. Once the spirit of rebellion reached its peak, toppling a ruler was the first step to success. And as the head of a major power, Jasper Kane was the perfect target. So what if you're a cartel boss? We ordinary people can still spit on you. We can still look down on you. In that moment, something seemed to awaken within the people of Viridian. They looked at the whimpering man on the ground and thought, the head of the main cartel doesn't seem so tough after all. This is it. This pathetic piece of trash is what we were afraid of all this time. At the same time, the Chow Dominion and the Umbra got word that Jasper had been found and were rushing to the scene. Jasper Kane, right? You used to be so arrogant. Yeah, your people used to run wild all over the city. You even had the police in your pocket. I propose we slaughter this animal for New Year's Eve and have a good year. Yeah, from now on, we won't be afraid of you big families anymore. Kill him. Kill him. The unified, thunderous chant exploded in Jasper's ears, making him tremble with fear. And no, don't kill me. Jasper kicked his feet desperately, trying to back away. But he was surrounded, with no escape. Just then, a black car pulled up. The door opened, and Leo slowly stepped out, followed closely by Willa Shaw. The crowd's attention was so fixated on Jasper that they didn't even notice the two arriving behind them. Leo took out the red pistol from the Manjashaka set, the one that symbolized death, and handed it to Willa. Do you dare? Willa looked at the gun, then took it without a moment's hesitation and walked resolutely into the crowd. At that exact moment, a system notification flashed in Leo's mind. Warning, task deviation detected. Host is required to guide Willa Shaw onto the righteous path. Host must correct his behavior immediately, or risk mission failure and forfeiture of all rewards. Shut up, Leo thought, his eyes on Willa's back. The path she chooses is her own. How she walks it is righteous. I don't give a damn if your garbage system recognizes it or not. Who needs your pathetic rewards? Go ahead, kill me if you can. The system instantly fell silent. The warning in his mind vanished. Willa pushed through the crowd and stood before Jasper Kane, pointing the gun at him. Shoot! 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 The crowd chanted again, their voices seeming to give Willa the confidence she needed. She took a deep breath, her hand steadying on the gun, her gaze firm as she looked at Jasper. She spoke slowly. Go to hell. And no, don't shoot. Bang! Before Jasper could finish, Willa pulled the trigger. The bullet flew from the Manjashaka's barrel. The gun's first shot had been fired by Willa Shaw. It struck Jasper Kane squarely in the head.